Good evening, everyone. It's 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, please note for the record that Mayor Hackson is absent with notice, and I will be presiding as the acting mayor. With that, I now call to order the December 16th meeting of Municipal Council. Before we begin, I would like to note that this evening's agenda is quite full, and to ensure that we are able to address all items in a timely manner, I would like to ask that comments and questions be kept focused on the matter currently before us. Are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item H3, I wish to advise Council that I have sought the advice of the Integrity Commissioner in this matter. In July 2019, I assisted the applicant property owner in the purchase of a property in Newmarket before he became the owner of 18899 Leslie Street in Sharon. In the last 6 years, I have not maintained a business relationship with the individual. The Integrity Commissioner advised me that knowing a person casually or through work does not generally create a conflict that carries a disqualifying pecuniary interest under the MCIA or bias under the Code. Further, she advised that there is no quid pro quo between the deliberation and vote on the matter and any future business I may have with the applicant. Simply having represented the applicant in the past does not create a disqualifying pecuniary interest or code bias for me. I shall therefore be participating in the discussion and deliberation on this matter as I do not have an interest to declare. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And we will move on to the land acknowledgement statement. The town of East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the First Peoples of the Williams Treaties First Nations and other Indigenous peoples, and on behalf of Council, I thank them for sharing this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation as EG's closest First Nation community and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and waters of this territory. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and we join them in these responsibilities. We have 6 deputations listed on the published agenda, and I understand that 2 deputations submitted by A. Lenkov and G. Brown regarding the 2026 budget have been withdrawn. Before we begin hearing from deputants, I want to outline the expectations for conduct at this meeting. All participants are expected to conduct themselves respectfully and in accordance with the town's procedural bylaw. This includes refraining from interruptions, outbursts, or any behavior that disrupts the meeting. Each deputant will be provided up to 5 minutes to present their remarks, unless council or committee approves a different time, and the meeting will continue in an orderly and respectful manner. Thank you very much. And we say here that the deputants must limit their remarks to the subject for which they have been granted approval. I would like to also remind everyone of the following rules from the procedure bylaw. No deputant shall speak disrespectfully of any person, use offensive words or unparliamentary language, or speak on any subject other than the subject for which they have received approval to address council or committee. And any disobeying the rules of the procedure or a decision of the chair of council. So these expectations help ensure that all participants, whether speaking or observing, can take part in a respectful, safe, and well-managed meeting. We will now proceed. We have a deputation, number 1, G. Brown, making a deputation to council regarding general council etiquette in Ontario.
Thank you. Acting Mayor, members of council, town staff, and residents, thank you for the opportunity to speak today about a matter of deep concern to me, etiquette and professional conduct in our town of East Gwillimbury Council. After my deputation on September 16th about the historic log cabin at 31 Sand Road, I paid close attention to the council meetings through to today as things became unraveled that night. Etiquette is defined as the customary behavior of members of a particular social or professional group towards each other. What I observed that night does not meet the standard of decorum and respect that the public expects. The focus shifted that night away from my message about heritage importance to interpersonal drama. This left me and others in attendance confused and disheartened. And it was after this meeting and my speech that when I went back to my seat, I asked the group, what happened just now? And someone just said to me, that looked like a kindergarten class up there. My comments tonight are not about personalities. They are about observable conduct and how that conduct aligns or fails to align with the town council and committee code of conduct. Now, as a teacher of 30 years, this is my 30th year, I know groups function best when norms are given. In my school, in my classroom, we rely on 5, and I'm going to keep these brief. 1, and I feel like I'm talking to kids here, taking turns. 1 person speaks at a time so everybody is heard. 2nd, disagreeing agreeably. That speaks for itself. 3rd, encouraging others. Tone matters. Respectful language builds trust. 4th, including everyone. We do not treat some voices as welcome and others as a nuisance. 5th, active listening. We give attention to the person speaking, which only 1 is doing right now, and not are engaged on their phones or devices. These norms produce fairness and respect, all of which we expect as constituents. What I've observed in council meetings between September 16th and today conflicts with those norms in a way residents can see clearly in the recordings or in person. I have observed since September interruptions and talking over others, dismissive delivery, including smirking, laughter, under the breath, and eye rolling when a speaker says something that is unwelcome. I've observed visible disengagement during public input, including attention moving to phones and laptops while someone has the floor. When the public sees these behaviors, the message received is simple: your voice or our voice is not respected. This matters because the town's code of conduct sets clear expectations. These principles include members shall serve the public in a conscientious and diligent manner. It also requires members to seek advice, to advance the public interest with honesty, and that they refrain from making disparaging comments or unfounded and speculative accusations. Most directly, the code states members will conduct themselves at all council, committee, and/or other town meetings with decorum and in accordance with the town's procedural bylaw. I also want to address something quickly that goes beyond the chamber. In a written email to me sent by a councillor, they characterized my questions about the process, my questions about their process as bullying, and described my statements as misinformation, which they were not. My point is straightforward in asking procedural questions and seeking clarification. That's part of civic accountability. Labeling that as bullying discourages public participation. Bullying, by the way, is repeated, intentional, aggressive behavior by someone with more power than another. This was not. I have no power. I also find this ironic as this councillor has received the Executive Certificate in Conflict Management from the University of Windsor Faculty of Law and is an approved member of the Alternative Dispute Resolution Institute of Ontario. Mind-blowing. Which is why I was appalled when I caught the recording of today's Committee of the Whole Council meeting when at the 3:53:47 mark, a councillor decided that another councillor was off topic, out of order, and stated, "Could you please turn her microphone off?" I am chairing and I've decided that you are off topic, and that councillor was not allowed to speak. Councillor must follow the code's model of respect, tone, attention, and behavior. Respect must be reciprocal if the public is to have confidence in the process. I'm not here to insult you. I'm not here to insult this council. I'm here to request that corrective action is concrete and measurable. So what I would like is to ask for clear meeting practice. I'd like to see when I'm watching either online or I'm in person that councillors are not on their phones, not taking washroom breaks when public is speaking, not going for sips of water, not texting each other, which is visibly seen, by the way, when you're watching online. And second, that I'm formally requesting that the council request a refresher workshop from the Integrity Commissioner. The code states that the Integrity Commissioner provides these workshops and education sessions for members and oversees formal complaints. A workshop is proactive, non-punitive, and focused on improvement. Etiquette is not theater. This is the public evidence of professionalism, accountability, and respect. Residents are watching. A lot of us are watching. And the town's own standards are clear. So I'm asking council to meet those standards in conduct, not only in policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your deputation, Mr. Brown. Can I have a mover for this, please? Councillor Johns, and a seconder, Councillor Roy D. Clementi. Be it resolved that the deputation made by Mr. Brown regarding General Council etiquette in Ontario be received. Thank you. Oh yes, all those in favour. I forgot to vote. All those in favour? Councillor Foster, are you participating in the vote? Okay, so you're voting in the affirmative? Okay, thank you very much. I just was seeking clarification. Thank you. So that is moved unanimously. Did everyone online raise their hands? Okay, very good. So that is passed. Thank you very much. So we will move, that's carried. We'll move on to number 2. Mr. Brown making a deputation to council regarding budget information. Oh, sorry, that one was withdrawn prior to the meeting tonight. Item number 3, Mr. Lenkov making a deputation to council regarding the hiring of external consultants.
Acting Madam Mayor and members of council, good evening. The town retained external legal counsellor Aird and Bellers LLP to understand the town's legal rights with respect to potential heritage implications regarding the development application of 31 Sand Road. According to the October 18th Corporate Services Memorandum, the external legal counsel confirmed that while the town has the authority to add the property to the Heritage Registry, this action would have no practical effect. Yet the town's website states that on November 7th, 2025, the property was listed on the town's Heritage Register. Put simply, the town paid external counsel, was told the listing would not change the owner's demolition rights, then listed the property anyways, and acknowledges that listing still has no effect. That is a stark contradiction between the legal advice obtained and the action taken. The Ontario Heritage Act provides provincial tools. Section 34.5 allows the minister, by order, to designate a property of provincial significance if it meets prescribed criteria. The town's 31 Sand Road FAQ explains this power. Furthermore, Section 35.2's related ministerial stop order powers can temporarily prevent alteration or demolition while provincial significance is assessed. It is necessary to ask why the potential application of Sections 34.5 and 35.2 have not appeared on the public record. Was this option not identified or advised upon by external counsel? And if that is the case, then why? When public money is spent on expert advice and the town appears to do the opposite, it raises serious questions about fiduciary responsibility. For these reasons, I ask for 2 motions. First, that council, in fulfillment of its Section 224 duties, direct that an independent external auditor review all spending and key decisions related to the retention of Aird and Bellers, including authorization, procurement, amounts paid, and how advice was communicated to council. Second, that council, under Section 274 of the Municipal Act, pass a resolution requesting that a judge of the Superior Court of Justice conduct a judicial inquiry into the 31 Sand Road matter, including any supposed breach of trust, misconduct, or other matter connected with the good government of the town. On November 4th, council voted to appoint a councillor as East Gwillimbury's standing alternate representative to York Region Council whenever the mayor is absent. This decision bypassed the acting mayoral rotational system established by bylaw 2023-018, a system that has long ensured fairness, predictability, and continuity of leadership during any temporary mayoral absence. On the same day this decision was made, council received a presentation from an external consultant on acting mayor roles, despite the town having a fully capable solicitor who could have provided the same analysis at no additional cost. This raises important questions. Why was the town's own legal expertise not utilized? What prevented internal staff from preparing this information? What public interest was served by spending taxpayer money on external advice for a decision that could have possibly been predetermined? Did all of council make this choice in an open session with justification for the expenditure? This sequence of actions suggests a lack of confidence in staff, a lack of transparency to the public, and possibly an effort to present the change as having professional support. This issue raises serious questions. So tonight, I am asking Council again to take 2 formal steps simultaneously to address these concerns. First, I ask you to immediately retain an independent auditor or qualified third party to review the consultant engagement from start to finish. That audit should, at a minimum, answer these questions for the public. Who authorized the hiring of the consultant and under what authority? What was the total cost to taxpayers, including all fees and HST? Were the town's procurement policies fully followed as required under your Municipal Act mandated procurement and accountability framework? What advice was provided and what value was received? In other words, what did taxpayers pay for and how did it influence Council's decision? Why internal staff, including the town solicitor, were not used instead? The auditor's report should be made public so residents can see whether this was a prudent, policy-compliant use of funds. At the same time, I am asking Council to pass a resolution under Section 274 of the Municipal Act to request a judicial inquiry by Superior Court judge into this matter. Section 274 allows Council, by resolution, to ask a judge to investigate any supposed breach of trust or other misconduct by a member of Council, an employee, or a person having a contract with the municipality, and any matter connected with the good government of the municipality or the conduct of its public business. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lenkov, I'm looking for a mover of this deputation. Anyone online? Councillor Johns, thank you for moving that. Councillor Crone, thank you for seconding that. And so I would like to open this up if there's any comments or questions for the deputant, Mr. Lenkov. Do I see any questions or comments? Oh, Councillor Crone, yes, thank you.
Let me get my microphone here. Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, through you to Mr. Lenkov, I appreciate your comments and welcome them. I think it's important to note that our staff are within their rights to hire a consultant. There's nothing untoward. It's a common occurrence. I think you were told that the last council meeting. Certainly, I know one of my colleagues mentioned it. I'm going to reiterate it. There's nothing out of the ordinary about hiring a consultant. It happens in municipal councils. It happens in the private sector. It certainly did when I worked in the private sector. So I would just tell you that for your own edification. The second point, with regards to a judicial inquiry, I think might be an overreach. The last judicial inquiry in Ontario that took place, I think, was in Collingwood, and it ended up costing $8 million. I don't know if, I don't think this would rise to that standard, but that's a high tab. So I haven't heard a compelling reason to have a judicial inquiry. And I believe, I haven't looked at Section 274 of the Municipal Act. I will look it up. And, but my understanding is that the province triggers a judicial inquiry. We don't have subpoena powers. So that's it for me, Madam Acting Mayor.
Are there any other comments or questions for the deputant? Seeing none at this point, I would like to make a comment myself. From the last time that the deputant spoke, you referred to the Section 274 of the Municipal Act, and so I have reread that portion so that I understand what you are referring to. And it does say that there can be an investigation and inquiry into any matter connected with the good government or governance, as the case may be, of the municipality. So I believe for the sake of fairness and transparency and accountability, I'm going to suggest that I put forward, I'm going to make a motion to receive the request from the deputant, and you had 2 specific requests, to have an independent auditor as well as a judicial inquiry. And so I would further to my motion like that it be resolved that council requests staff to pursue a judicial inquiry and independent audit as it's connected with the good governance of the municipality. So I'm putting that motion forward, and if we could have that on the screen, and I will need a seconder to move forward with that. Yes, yes, Councillor Johns?
Thanks, Councillor Leahy. Not sure if it's point of procedure or whatnot, but I believe that Councillor Crone and I already moved this, so I'm not sure if this would be an amendment, because you asked for Councillor Crone and I to move this.
Okay, thank you very much. So this would be an amendment then to the deputation. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. So you do have a motion that was moved by Councillor Johns and seconded by Councillor Crone to receive the deputation. You are now proposing an amendment to this motion. And your amendment, we're just trying to craft that as you were reading it out loud. If we will craft that so that first you would have to have a seconder to be able to proceed with that amendment. If that amendment goes through, then the main motion will have to be voted on as amended. If it does not go through, then you have to go back to the main motion to just receive.
Very good.
Just
Okay.
bear with us as we
Yes,
put the language together.
thank you. Yes, Councillor Johns?
Thanks. So while the clerk is typing that up, can you so I can kind of digest what your motion is? You're asking for a judicial inquiry of what?
Of what the deputant just requested, that he's just spoken to us of.
Yeah. You are tabling the motion. I'm just wondering
Yes.
if you can explain what you're tabling here.
I believe it's best to keep it simple and to have a motion to receive the requests made by the deputant, Mr. Lenkov, and that further that it be resolved that council requests staff to pursue a judicial inquiry and an independent audit as it's connected with the good governance of the municipality under section 274 that he referred to.
Just for the record, I'm going to be voting no to that amendment, the way that you've worded it. Thank you.
Well, we'll get to the vote in a moment, so thank
No,
you.
I'm just
Yeah.
stating my...
Yes, Madam Clerk?
Through you, Madam Chair, just so the amendment that you have proposes on the screen, you have moved it. This motion is lacking a seconder, so you do require a seconder in order to be able to carry out any conversation on the motion.
Very good. Is there any seconder to the amendment as put forward on the screen that everyone can read? Anyone online joining us virtually tonight? So if there is no seconder, then it cannot proceed.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct.
Thank you very much. Then we will go back to the original deputation that's been moved by Councillor Crone and seconded by Councillor Johns. And so we will have a vote on be it resolved that the deputation made by Mr. Lenkov regarding the hiring of external consultants be received. All those in favor? Very good. Everyone online? Do I have everyone online? Yes, thank you. And that is carried. Thank you. So we will, we withdrew the item number 4 by the deputant prior to this meeting regarding the budget analysis. So we'll move on to item number 5 on the agenda in terms of deputations. So, Mr. Lenkov, you remain at the podium, and you are making a deputation to council regarding deputations done before council.
Thank you. Acting Madam Mayor, members of council, democracy does not disappear overnight. It erodes gradually when access is restricted, when participation is discouraged, such as limiting deputations, and when foreseeable barriers are allowed to persist without correction. What I will outline this evening raises serious concerns about whether democratic participation in East Gwillimbury is being adequately protected. At the November 4th Committee of the Whole Council meeting, I was required to wait more than 3 hours for a closed session to conclude before I was permitted to deliver my deputation. I asked Council to reflect on this carefully. Why would a resident be scheduled after a lengthy closed session rather than before it? Was it not foreseeable that such a delay would test a resident's ability to remain present for so long? And does this practice not, at minimum, create the appearance that public participation may be discouraged through delay rather than facilitated through accommodation? These are not rhetorical questions. They go directly to procedural fairness and public trust. During the October 21st public statutory meeting regarding the development application at 31 Sand Road, a councillor stated, "We have reached, and it's a first, and I've been here since 2010, we've reached the facility's capacity. There are registered speakers waiting to enter the building." What is critical is that this level of turnout was not unexpected. For months, the town had advance notice that attendance would be overwhelming. I personally sent 8 emails to the clerk raising concerns that there would not be sufficient time for everyone to be heard, and formally requesting that a second meeting date be scheduled. At the October 6th community meeting, many individuals confirmed they had already registered to speak. I also advised 2 councillors from the same ward on September 8th, following a traffic meeting, that turnout would be unlike anything the town had seen before. Nothing was done. Council knew it was coming, and still no accommodation was made. Council had the authority to act. Procedural bylaw number 2009-109, section 16, allows council to adjourn and continue at a meeting to a future date. That authority existed. It was not exercised. To understand why that decision matters, we must examine comments made that evening. At approximately 10:30 p.m., more than 4 hours into the meeting, a councillor stated, "Just wanted to announce to the room that we are approximately at the halfway mark," followed by their own laughter and then joined by 2 other councillors. On an evening that was likely the largest resident turnout in East Gwillimbury's history, this remark trivialized the seriousness of the moment and the significance of what residents were there to express. Shame on that council for making light of a moment that carried profound importance for the community. Moments later, at approximately 10:14 p.m., the same councillor stated, "It's going a lot faster the later we get. I will remind people if you get worn out and want to submit comments in writing to us." This raises a deeply troubling question. Was it acceptable that resident fatigue became a factor in managing public participation? Was allowing the meeting to run late into the night a deliberate choice, knowing people would become worn out and leave without doing their deputations? Why would council ever allow a process where the possibility of residents being worn out was foreseeable, let alone tolerated? Shame on that council for permitting a process where exhaustion became a barrier to democratic participation. The outcome was predictable. Despite more than 140 registered speakers, nowhere near that number gave deputations. Many residents could not enter the building. Many left because they were indeed worn out. The meeting ran over 6 hours until midnight. Parents with young children were forced to leave before they could do their deputation so they could care for their children. Shame on that councillor for denying those parents the opportunity to be heard. Residents with medical considerations were forced to leave before their deputations could be heard. Shame on that councillor for failing to accommodate residents whose health limited their ability to endure an unnecessarily prolonged meeting. Residents with work obligations were similarly excluded. Shame on that councillor for silencing residents who had responsibilities either that evening or the following morning. These residents did not choose silence. Silence was imposed by process. When participation is predictably curtailed through inaction, democracy is weakened. When residents are discouraged by delay and exhaustion, trust in local government is undermined. Accountability in governments is not about intent. It is about impact. And the impact of what occurred raises serious questions about judgment, respect for public participation, and whether the conduct displayed meets the standard expected of those entrusted to serve on council. Thank you.
Very good, Mr. Lenkov. Thank you for your deputation. I think it's an important part of the democratic process that we listen to all feedback from our residents, and so I would like to ask for a mover for this deputation regarding deputations done before council. Can I have a mover for that? Councillor Crone, thank you very much, and a seconder. I will second that this time. I will second that. And so be it resolved that the deputation made by A. Lenkov regarding deputations done before council be received. All those in favor? Oh, we have a question from Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a comment on the motion. There's a lot to unpack there, and what I would like to advise committee, council, the residents here, people online, is that I'm aware of an email that was sent to the community in recent days. And I'm also, having just listened to this deputation, which I believe to be defamatory, and that the email may also have been libelous, and I am letting the room here know that I'm seeking legal advice. Thank you.
Right. Well, we are going to, Councillor Crone, you'd like to make a comment? Yes?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Through you to Mr. Lenkov, I want you to know that I support your right to speak here. I do. I really do. I may not agree with everything that you say, but I think it's important that you have the opportunity to express yourself. I've been doing this job for 7 years now. It'll almost be the end of a second term coming up next year. And I've seen a lot of good people come in here and advocate for their cause. And I can sense you're frustrated. I know you're frustrated. I get it. But I look back at those people that were really effective in advocacy, and I've seen people that were really poor at advocacy. And so I think if I in all sincerity, I want to give you some suggestions on upping your game. I think what I would encourage you to speak to everyone, every member of council. Talk to them about what you're passionate about, what it is that's upsetting you, but speak to each of us individually. It doesn't have to be face to face; it could be over the phone. But it's that back and forth communication that I think is so effective. Emails are horrible. It's got to be two-way communication. When you find some area of common ground, and then you build on that. And I think that's what really effective advocates have done, and they've been really effective in getting their project or their cause across the finish line. The other suggestion I give you is that when you put in your deputation request, add some details to what it is you're going to be talking about. We had a deputation here this morning at Committee of the Whole, and they included their PowerPoint. Now, I'm not expecting you to do a PowerPoint, but throw some meat on the bone. Let us know what you're coming with so that we read it before council and we know we're more engaged, and maybe we can research something, what you said, like I would have looked up Section 274 of the Municipal Act, for instance. Those are things that you can do to help elevate your concern and your pitch. I really want you to be effective, because if you're effective, you can get things done. You're feeling good. We're feeling good as councillors because we're helping the community. I think it's a win-win. You keep going the way you are, you know what they say, the definition of insanity is. So I would just really encourage you to engage with us on a one-to-one level. And I think you might see things turn around a bit. And, I love frank conversation. You come in, I know I'm not perfect. I like the comment, we can disagree without being disagreeable. And I would really encourage you to think about that before your next trip to the lectern. Anyway, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Crone. I think we all need to be reflective in terms of language that we use, whether it's a resident making a deputation or it's a member of council, because we always want to respect the right of individuals and freedom of speech, and people are entitled to their opinions, and we encourage their engagement with the democratic process. And I think we need to be cautious about comments made in public regarding legal matters that may or may not be forthcoming. So, yes, Councillor Roy D. Clemente.
Thank you. I would, I think it might be helpful if we were to ask, I know we've referenced the expertise in the room, if we were to ask our solicitor for some information regarding freedom of speech and expression within the context of council deputations. I think that the deputant suggested that greater accommodation needed to be made, a facilitation needed to be made. I happen to know for a fact that our staff spent a great deal of effort putting together and anticipating the unprecedented amount of attention that we were going to be getting for that. But the idea that somebody would be silenced either in the context of a public meeting or even in a regular meeting of council that is non-statutory, I think it's helpful to understand what the intent of the procedural bylaw is and what our town solicitor can tell us about freedom of speech and expression within that context. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Would our town solicitor like to make a comment, or shall we move on to seek a mover and seconder for this deputation at this stage?
I'm in council's hands. If you wish me to make a statement about freedom of expression, I'm happy to make one.
Well, then we'll err on the side of caution, and if you have some comments you'd like to share with us, we're more than happy to hear those. I believe everybody deserves a chance to be heard. Thank you.
So through you, Madam Mayor, Acting Mayor, freedom of expression is certainly a constitutional right, but it's not an unlimited right, Mr. Lenkov. It's not a right for you to stand up at the podium and attribute intention and conclusions in your deputations. So just a note of caution, this is a council meeting. This council has every authority under the law to permit deputations, but if council chooses not to permit deputations, it's not an infringement of a person's freedom of expression. Freedom of expression can be exercised outside the building. It is not a right of any person coming into this council chamber to hijack the meeting under the guise of freedom of expression. So I think people have to understand this, please, because this council has a job to do. It has a mandate. It's responsible under the Municipal Act and other statutes to deliver services. And in its council meetings, it's supposed to be conducting business. So when it comes to conducting business, council has the authority to either hear the deputations or not. For the record, Mr. Lenkov, you have never been denied a deputation request. But in the future, if you cannot keep your comments without casting aspersions on members of this council, then perhaps council may not, and I'm not saying they will because I'm not in charge of council, but they have the full authority to not hear a deputation and not have it infringe your freedom of expression.
So at this juncture, we will, I'm seeking a mover and a seconder for Mr. Lenkov's deputation regarding deputations done before council. So do we have a mover? Oh, right. Thank you very much. There's a lot to keep track of in the acting mayor chair here. Okay, so Councillor Crone has moved it.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct, and you had indicated you wanted to
I
second
will
the
second
motion.
it. Okay, very good. So we will vote on this. All those in favor? All those opposed? Is there anyone opposed? Abstention is considered a negative vote, so that is carried. And we will move on to the last deputation by Mr. A. Lenkov, making a deputation to council regarding councillor etiquette.
Thank you. Acting Madam Mayor and members of council. I'm here this evening to address a matter that relates to basic standards of etiquette, fairness, and public accountability that residents should reasonably expect from their elected officials. At the statutory public meeting on the 31 Sand Road development application, following my deputation, a councillor made statement regarding its content. I was given no opportunity to respond. Now, let's remember that meeting was an opportunity for residents to be heard. I asked council, is that considered good etiquette by councillor? To make statements that was somewhat misleading, then deny the resident a chance to clarify. On November 18th, following my deputation in fire services, the same pattern occurred. My statements were again mischaracterized, and once again I was denied the opportunity to respond. Is misrepresenting a resident's concerns acceptable conduct for an elected official responsible for ensuring accurate public record? On that same evening, the councillor suggested I speak directly with the fire chief and with several deputies to clarify certain points. I followed that direction in good faith. But when I returned on December 4th to present the findings from those conversations, did the councillor not attempt to prevent me from speaking at all, citing sections 13.2 and 18 of the procedural bylaw and claiming it would be a waste of municipal tax dollars? We must ask, how is this a waste of taxpayer money? I'm a tax-paying resident. How is permitting me to speak wasting my own taxes? Is it considered good etiquette or even logical for a councillor to instruct a resident to gather information only to possibly attempt to block them from reporting it back to council? Finally, a motion to consent to hearing my deputations was put before council, and all members voted in favor, including the very same councillor. How is that not the height of hypocrisy? After spending 6 minutes on an exercise that wasted everyone's time and ultimately undermined their own argument. This begs the question, was raising sections 13.2 and 18 of the procedural bylaw an attempt to mask the true intention of preventing a resident from speaking because the content was unwelcome? Was this an effort to discourage public participation by procedural means rather than open debate? Was this ultimately an attempt to shut down democracy under the guise of something else? These incidents reveal a larger issue. If a councillor objects to what a resident intends to raise during a deputation, that is not grounds to interrupt them, mischaracterize their comments, or obstruct their participation. Public office carries moral and ethical responsibilities. Foremost among them, the obligation to hear feedback from residents. Is it acceptable etiquette for a councillor to shut down and discourage public input simply because the message may be inconvenient? Is that proper councillor etiquette? Residents do not expect their councillors to agree with them. They do, however, expect fairness, accuracy, and the opportunity to speak without unnecessary interruption or interference. Is eroding public participation compatible with the duties of an elected official? If an elected official finds public feedback intolerable, then it raises a serious question. Is municipal office the right line of work for someone unwilling to listen to the public they serve? Public service demands patience, openness, and respect, especially when perspectives differ. I raise these concerns today because etiquette in public office is not about politeness alone. It is about trust, transparency, and ensuring that the democratic process remains functionable and accessible. When residents are interrupted, misrepresented, or blocked from participating, confidence in the system diminishes. Is that the direction we want our municipal governance to move forward? Where is the town's commitment to fair, accessible, and respectful public participation? Residents deserve nothing less. Thank you.
And that concludes the final deputation tonight. And I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for Mr. Lenkov's deputation regarding councillor etiquette. Do I have a mover to receive this deputation? Councillor Johns. And do I have a seconder? I will second that in the spirit of the democratic process to receive that. And so I will now call the vote. And all those in favor? All those opposed? And if there is no participation, that is considered abstaining, which is a vote in the negative. So that motion, that deputation is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Lenkov. So we will now proceed to the next item of business on the agenda tonight. Item E, there are no presentations at this time. Item F, committee recommendations. So I will read out to adopt the Committee of the Whole Council recommendations from the meeting held on December 2nd, 2025. And I need a mover and a seconder for those committee recommendations. Councillor Johns, Councillor Foster, be it resolved that Council adopt the Committee of the Whole Council recommendations from the meeting held on December 2nd, 2025. All those in favor? And that is carried. Yes, Madam Clerk?
Madam Chair, just as a reminder, there was one item from this afternoon's Committee of the Whole that required same-day ratification. Since you are under committee recommendation section of the agenda, we will place that on the screen for Council's consideration at this time.
Thank you. I will read it out in case everybody can't see those small letters up there on the screen. Be it resolved that Council adopt the Committee of the Whole Council recommendations from the meeting held today on December 16th, 2025 as follows. Be it resolved that Finance Report Finance 2025-08 dated December 16th, 2025, entitled Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund Grant Transfer Payment Agreement be received, and that the Treasurer be authorized to execute the transfer payment agreement with His Majesty the King in right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Sport, including any other agreements or documents necessary to support the project, and that the recommendations from Finance Report Finance 2025-08 be ratified at the meeting of Municipal Council on December 16th, 2025 to ensure the timely execution of the transfer payment agreement. And I'll need a mover and seconder for that. Can I have a mover? Councillor Johns, and a seconder, Councillor Crone. All those in favor?
Can I speak to it before you call
Oh,
it?
yes, pardon me, yes.
Yeah, thanks through you, Madam Acting Mayor, to Mr. Marshall, Treasurer. Can you just, this is for grants to come to us, is that correct?
Through you, Acting Madam Chair. Yes, that is for funds that are coming to us that we've received after applying for a grant.
Okay. Can I get clarification on how much that was for?
Through you, Acting Mayor. The grant was $611,000.
So as discussed this morning in the Committee of the Whole, and that grant, for everybody's knowledge, was provided by the province, and the Minister of Sport presented that to us earlier in the year. And so I've just read the resolutions, and I have a mover and a seconder, and so I'm going to call the vote right now. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. We're moving on to item number G, which is adoption of the minutes. To adopt the Committee of the Whole Council minutes from the meeting held on December 2nd, 2025. Can I have a mover for that? Councillor Crone, and a seconder, Councillor Foster. Be it resolved that Council adopt the Committee of the Whole Council minutes from the meeting held on December 2nd, 2025. All those in favor? And that is carried. And we will move on to item number 2, to adopt the council minutes from the meeting held on December 2nd, 2025, moved by, can I have a mover? Councillor Roy DeClemente, and a seconder, Councillor Johns. Be it resolved that council adopt the council minutes from the meeting held on December 2nd, 2025. All those in favor? And that is carried. And we are moving on to a statutory public meeting now. I will now read the introductory statement to the statutory public planning meeting. This is a prepared statement that we read before statutory public meetings. Members of the public, this portion of council meeting is a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act. This evening's agenda includes 3 items scheduled as statutory public meetings. The purpose of these meetings is to provide information and receive public input on the planning applications received by the town prior to staff undertaking a full technical review. No decisions to approve or refuse any of the applications will be made tonight. Following each applicant's presentation, members of the public will be invited to provide comments on the respective proposals. Written submissions may also be provided to planning@eastgoldenberry.ca. If you wish to speak this evening or would like to be notified of future council meetings related to any of the applications, please complete a form at the check-in desk outside the council chamber. I will now ask the Director of Planning to introduce the first application. So we have our Mr. Krupnik will do the introductions of this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Today we have with us 19291 Leslie Street and 20164 Farr Avenue. This is a public meeting for this item. We do have the applicant with us today as well, who will be presenting this application to council, and be ready to take council's questions from council today on this item. Thank you.
So we are going to have a presentation now from the applicant agent before we ask for public comments. Thank you very much. Can you introduce yourself, please? Thank you.
Good evening, members of council, members of the public. My name is Courtney Fish, and I'm a senior planner with KLM Planning Partners. I'm here tonight representing the property owners, Big Rock Developments and DG Group, with respect to the subject lands and the submitted zoning bylaw amendment application. Go to the next slide, please. The subject lands are located within the community of Sharon and have a combined area of approximately 49 hectares with frontage on both Leslie Street and Farr Avenue. Land uses to the north, or lands to the north, are included within future White Belt lands, which are planned for future community uses, and existing residential uses are to the south and the west. Go to the next slide, please. The subject lands are within the settlement boundary of Sharon and are designated within the official plan and the secondary plan as low-density residential and environmental protection area. And the lands are zoned, currently zoned rural and open space 1. Next slide, please. So the proposed development for the subject lands conforms to the town's official plans and the secondary plan, and a zoning bylaw amendment application has been submitted to implement the policy framework within the official plan and the secondary plan, where the lands are designated for residential uses. So the proposed zoning is outlined on the slide here, and uses zones that have been previously introduced and approved through other development applications within the town. Just for a quick reference, the yellow area is a zone that would permit single detached dwellings. The orange area would permit standard street townhouses, and the brown area to the west would permit rear lane townhouses, and the green area central to the site would be for parks and stormwater management uses. We'll go to the next slide, please. This slide just outlines the materials that were submitted in support of a complete application and prepared by a team of professional consultants on behalf of the property owners. Go to the next slide here. Okay, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Fish, for that very efficient presentation. Okay. And so at this stage, we will take public comments. And we have 3 speakers who have registered regarding this application. I will now call on those individuals to join us at the lectern to provide their comments regarding this application. And we remind speakers that they need to give their name and their address. And if you have not pre-registered to speak, you can still speak. You need to speak with one of the clerks here and fill out the form, and then you're welcome to speak tonight. So our first speaker tonight to join us at the lectern to provide their comments regarding this application is our first speaker is Mr. Gary Hunter. Is Mr. Gary Hunter here?
Yes.
Thank you. Your microphone is already turned on there and ready for you to go.
Okay, thank you very much for hearing me. I'm attending on behalf, or presenting on behalf of 84 May Avenue, the Hunkings. Mr. Hunking is here in attendance as well. We wish to object to one component of this draft plan or site plan or zoning bylaw, and that is the raising of the water tables in the vicinity of the stormwater pond and within the floodplain of Harrison Creek. The upper water level in the proposed stormwater pond, and I'm talking about the central stormwater pond that's immediately behind Donlands Avenue. It has a civic address of 79 Donlands. So it's, we saw in the exhibits. The proposal is to raise that water level to, and I'm going to round it for presentation here, to 262 meters above sea level. And the implication of that is that 262 contour extends from 84 May Avenue into the backyards, not all of the backyards, but many of the backyards, to the next lot south of George Street. So in terms of speaking for 84 May Avenue, I think I'm really speaking for a number of property owners, residential property owners, that will experience at high levels in the storm pond, flooding in their backyards, which means floating their septic fields. We're not on sewers on May Avenue. It has water, it has storm sewers. It also means the water will back up into the storm sewer system and whatever connections are there at high levels. And that 262 contour actually extends almost to Farr Avenue, if you know where the SAG is, if you're familiar with the streets here. And the water levels, the water table actually gets higher in the groundwater as you move away from the flooding areas. Now, it's quite ironic. When the storm pond at 79 Donlands, the existing storm pond, was built, it has a whole level of controls that were actually higher than what is being proposed by the applicant. And a short time after that storm pond was developed, there was flooding in the backyards of May Avenue. And there is another gentleman here who lives at 85 May Avenue that's lived there for 52 years. And he remembers and recalls that flooding event and the town coming in doing something with that storm pond. He didn't recall what they did or wasn't aware of what they did, but studying the historical aerial photographs and looking at the outlet and the outfall, basically they took out all the high-level controls so that there was just a low-level control on that storm pond. So here we have setting up in this situation same situation that's happened 40, 45 years ago, and the implications for flooding and raising the water tables. And also the homes on May Avenue, at least that I'm aware of and familiar with, they all have sump pumps because they didn't have a place to dispose of their water. The storm sewers came in afterwards. And I've prepared a technical submission. We were denied being able to present 3 or 4 maps, apparently because you get a lot of maps and so forth, but we are available at some other time to discuss this in detail. And our copies of our reports are available from Mr. LaPena. He has them. And Mr. Hunking, I'm sure, is quite prepared to see that other people get them. I should have mentioned I'm an environmental and engineering consultant with more years of experience than I like to admit, I guess, but I've been involved with the Oak Ridges Marine Hydrogeology studies that led to the Oak Ridges policies and a whole series of land tribunal hearings and so forth. In fact, I've spent half of this year at hearings, I believe. And I'm from Mississauga, to part that, and I have an environmental and engineering consulting firm.
We appreciate
So,
your.
Without diving deep, that's my overview.
We appreciate your deputation, and I neglected to mention at the beginning of this meeting, we have a new staff employee here joining us tonight, our new head of the General Manager of Development Services, which includes planning, Ms. Carrie Vumvakas, and so we're very excited about her joining us here. For all of those in the council chambers joining us tonight who are making deputations, so I personally would appreciate it. You indicated that Mr. LaPena has got a copy of that, and I would like to ask that as councillors we can have the opportunity to look at that as well behind the scenes after your deputation. So thank you very much. And so I'd like to open up the floor to the next deputation. Okay, very good. Thank you very much for your deputation and your comments. So we'll move on to number 2, registered speaker, Mr. Chris Hobbs. And please state your name and address clearly when you come to the lectern. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor Leahy and members of council. Name is Chris Hobbs. I'm on Leslie Street, 18849. And I'm here to talk about the massive increase in traffic volume with the impact of 830 residential units that will flow onto Leslie Street just north of Mount Albert. And that means a minimum of 1,600 additional vehicles a day. And moving south because of natural traffic flow, which means they'll be going through the Heritage Conservation District and through the village core of Sharon, unless there's some issues relating to opening of interchanges at Doan Road and Mount Albert and the 404. The point being is I've been a resident of Sharon for nearly 50 years, and traffic issues of Sharon have been become paramount for quite some time. Over the last 10 years, traffic has increased. Police activity has decreased dramatically since the closing of Sharon Public School. And as a result, the average speed on Leslie Street over the last 3 or 4 years has increased exponentially. I'm not someone who talks too much about exaggeration, but it is a regional road, yet, and the region has, in many respects, been an absentee landlord in terms of proper care and traffic management and things of that nature. About all they show themselves for is snow clearing, which I do appreciate. But the traffic is now moving well over the posted limit in almost 100% of cases, which is 50 kilometers an hour, and with many vehicles approaching or exceeding highway speeds. And without regard to resident safety or consideration to pedestrians, bicyclists, etc. The proposal of this 830 residential unit, and I'm speaking also to there's another submission today in the for another daycare. So the proposal of an additional daycare in the village core concerns me, as the interaction of vehicles dropping off children with the vast majority of flow-through traffic, that will create conflicts and accidents. We had an accident about 3 to 4 weeks ago on Leslie Street, right in front of my house, where a vehicle crossed the center lane, struck another vehicle. And one of our neighbors went out. We had a whole crew out there trying to direct traffic and get traffic moving. And one of them put on a flagman's outfit and was moving traffic by. And I was on 911 watching what was going on, 911 watching what was going on, talking to the operator, when a fellow accelerated past this helpful man, and I thought for a second he was going to hit him. He was that close. The other thing is he threw his finger at the fellow as he drove by because he was doing something socially acceptable. And that's one of the issues we do have in today's world. People are too busy, in too much of a hurry. They've been influenced by what they see and read in news from south of the border, so they believe the individual is paramount, not society in general. So we have flow-through drivers that come from north down to Newmarket. We're looking for some way to remove that excess capacity, and yet we're being asked to accept another 830 units. We have another daycare that's being proposed for, that will be talked to later this afternoon or this evening, which will require additional vigilance and concern by traffic users and vehicles. And without rigorous enforcement of the speed limit by police, in order to create a behavioral change in the north-south traffic flow, we will be faced with some, I am unfortunately, within my lifetime, I will see some fatalities of people users of daycare and other commercial entities within Sharon. And it's just a matter of time because of the speed that people use when they go through town. There is a smartphone app called Speed Clock, which allows people to measure the speed of passing vehicles. It's not valid for trial, but I'm in the process, I think, of getting that app and putting it on my phone so that I can provide this information as follow-up to ensure that the police will come out. I believe they should be here 24/7, but as you realize, radar is not allowed at night because it's too dangerous. So that just begs the question of just exactly what does go on Leslie Street, north and south during the evenings.
Thank you, Mr. Hobbs. Thank you, Mr. Hobbs. Do you have more to?
Yeah, I have one or two more items. Because there are going to be two daycare centers side by each on Leslie Street, I believe there should be a reduction in speed limit to 40 kilometers, similar to school zones. And it should run from Mount Albert Road to St. James Anglican at 40 clicks. And there should, again, be enforcement of that particular speed. And when you take a look at the topography of Sharon's Leslie Street, there's that little brow just north of where the daycare is going to be, and it creates a hazard. And York Regional Transit has moved its southbound bus stop to the top of that brow. And I believe it's more for safety reasons than to make it easier for people to come across from the west side residences and subdivisions. But, and we have two more things. Newmarket has just announced it's requesting the province complete the interchange at Mulock. It's only been there since, uncompleted since 1989. And I believe that Doane Road interchange, which is ready, just has to be $20 million or so has to be put forward to it by the province, I think. And I think that's a wonderful idea. And our premier keeps talking about we have to stop attacking the car. So maybe we can get him with his good graces to provide that funding for the Doane Road completion. And also, we instead of waiting 40 years, we should have Mount Albert 404 have an interchange as well, which will funnel cars to the 404 much sooner rather than going through down to Green Lane.
And your final point, Mr. Hobbs, as we wrap it up? We appreciate all of the time you've taken to share with us your thorough observations, and it's nice to know about the smartphone app. I didn't know one existed. They have an app for everything these days.
Yes.
But if you have one more point, we'll...
No, I'll be ready to speak to the daycare issue about more about safety when its deputation comes up. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Unless you've got questions regarding traffic volume.
Well, we will get to that once we've heard all of the individuals who would like to make their comments, as you have done. Then we will open it up for some conversation and some questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Hobbs, for that thorough presentation. And Mr. David Rogers is next on our list of registered speakers.
Hello, my name is David Rogers. I live at 86 May Avenue. And this has a direct implication on my property because I have almost an acre. Now, they're proposing a lot of houses from what I could just gather on that little view there of what's at the back of my house. It doesn't represent my property size at all. And the other factor, the main factor too, about the retention pond, is it's supposed to be within 15 meters of a freshwater runoff. And they're not. Our septic systems are within 20 feet of that retention pond and freshwater runoff. Also, there's also a runoff that goes down the side of my house that goes to the back part of the property that eventually leads to the wetlands to the north of my property. So these of all things have got to be taken into account. I was told in a previous engagement quite a while ago that there was going to be an interstitial at the side of my property. From what I can gather of what I've seen here, I didn't see any interstitial on the side of my property at all. So I just want to set these out as inquiries. But basically, and the other point I wanted to make was in a lot of municipalities, it's actually 30 meters. And in minimum, it's 15 meters for a retention or a rainwater runoff.
Very good.
The whole system, all the way down May Avenue, was built incorrectly. It never should have been that close to the properties, because they're all septic systems.
May I just ask one point of clarification? I know we're going to ask questions later, but you mentioned the word interstitial, and so could you please clarify what you're referring to when you use that word?
Mrs. Tara Roy DiClemente, she knows what I'm talking about. Is the division on the side of the properties. You divide the two different types of properties. A piece of land in between the two.
Very good. Okay. Thank you so much for that clarification and for your deputation. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our last registered speaker, who is just registered now, is Ms. Denise Tennant.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to make another statement, and I know Brian Johns actually brought this up before, which is that developers are in the business of making money. They don't care about the municipality. They don't care about the residents that are currently here. What they want is to maximize their profits on the land that they have purchased. The problem is that the existing residents that are there have to deal with the impacts of it. That includes, and I've already noticed, and there's also a number of different properties that have been purchased, and, we right down Leslie Street. Sorry, I didn't say I'm at 83 Jennifer Crescent. So those other properties have already been approved, a 6-story in the Heritage District, a condo. And we ask that these developers do traffic studies, and I love when they do them during the pandemic. That was wonderful. But the fact still remains that each of those is considered as a silo. They're not considered in their entirety. So how are all of these different developments, including this one on May Avenue, going to impact the current residents in terms of getting around? We're already seeing what's happening in Newmarket with crazy traffic issues, but we really need the town to do a traffic study overall, not in isolation for each of these developments. So I ask that before we approve any kind of zoning changes or approve any kind of developments, that we have a plan for what the traffic's going to be in the future. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
That concludes the registered speakers that we have, so we'll give everybody one more opportunity. This is your opportunity now to speak. If you'd like to step forward, if you'd like to give your name and address to the clerks, you are welcome to speak now before we open it up to questions from council. Okay, there's one more person who'd like to speak. And before you, once you're completed your deputation, please, your comments, could you please speak with the clerks and fill out the form that you need to fill out?
So after I speak?
Well, you can speak now. We'll let you speak
Okay.
now. State your name and your address, please.
So my name is Kaylin Hollywood. I live at 52 May Avenue. I have some really great concerns over traffic flow on May. It's a small street. It has no sidewalks, and my concern is I did not see the traffic flow there, but we have 2 direct entrances and exits on May Avenue, on that tiny little street. So I would like to know how that is going to be addressed for community safety. That's all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And so if you can speak with one of our clerks, there's, at the back, our clerk at the back would be happy to help you fill out that form. Thank you very much. And so now we're going to open it up to councillors. And are there any questions or comments from councillors about this presentation and the comments that have been made by our residents? Anyone joining us online? Virtually? No? Councillor Johns, yes, you can start us off, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I have concerns. Mr. Hobbs' deputation was, I appreciated the comments that Mr. Hobbs was making about the traffic on the regional road. Like, I feel like the topic of Leslie Street, the streetscaping, the speed mitigation, improvements at Leslie Street and Mount Albert Side Road, I feel like this has been something that we have talked about for decades, yet the community continues to iteratively grow without the community being able to see the improvements, and the results are increased speeding. And like Mr. Hobbs, I wholly agree. Like, I divert when I'm walking or running. I don't take Leslie Street. I will find another way. And so, along with the communities taking steps and exploring this, we very much need to advocate with the region. There are plans sitting there at the region. We need to find a way to have them moved up in the capital budget and have them addressed. Like the comments on Leslie Street, Doan Road. You mentioned the Doan Road, the highway, but the fact is that switchback needs to be fixed. We need signalized intersection there as well. There is a pile of traffic mitigation, safety issues, road improvements, pedestrian crossings, speed, like, we have to be moving ahead and not even in tandem or even reactionary. And I just think that we need to be taking a leadership role in this area because of everything that comes before this council and this table. It seems to always be traffic, and it seems that it is reactionary as opposed to being proactive. Meanwhile, we're sitting in the meetings and receiving and watching these presentations, but I feel like we can be doing more and making stronger advocacy efforts. So I just wanted to comment off of Mr. Hobbs.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo my colleagues' comments. I think we've often talked about, I consider the Doan interchange to be roughed in. And I think the region does not have it in its 10-year capital plan, and we need to find a way to make sure that that gets escalated. The interchange, as well as the extension, we're putting more homes on Doan Road and in the and on either side of Second Concession, and those people need access to the highway as well. So I think that's an important thing. I do know that we had some significant conversations about Mount Albert Road and the ability to put an interchange in there. At the time of the highway extension, I was told that there were two issues. One is that you don't put an on-ramp or an off-ramp onto a road that has residential driveways on it, and the presence of our sports complex would also prohibit that. Secondly, that there isn't enough distance between the Green Lane off-ramp and what would be the Mount Albert on-ramp to be able to create that extension. So that's why there isn't an exchange there, for those of you who are wondering. That was what I was told. But for me, I certainly did take note that we may want to consider asking the region to implement a community safety zone on Leslie Street, if that's for the other application, but it was something that struck me. With respect to this application, obviously we want to make sure, I knew that there were stormwater management issues in the area. We know we have a high water table in the area, and we know that there are all of the people on Farr and May have septic systems, and that some of them are aging, and so those need to be considered as part of this. Also, the adjacent neighbors between the southern boundary of this application and the existing neighbors, that interface needs to be managed. And I know, having worked with this applicant before, we've done it in other places in the community, and I know that they will come through for those neighbors. They will work with the neighbors, and as long as there's one solution, I'm confident that they will take care of that. I did want to kind of look at the integration at the end of Farr Avenue Road and the lot fabric of Street 3. It's kind of awkward in that spot. It's awkward for the neighborhood, but it's also awkward for the existing residents as well. So I'd like to see something changed there. And I did want to, and I've made promises in the past to residents that I would raise this when the time came. There is a massive tree at the end of May Avenue that is essentially, the trunk is as wide as May Avenue. And so that needs to be, we need to have some kind of consideration for, I'm raising it on behalf of the residents who live in that area. They've alerted me to it. I've taken pictures of it. It's quite a feat of nature, and so it is obviously in danger in this situation. And so I'd like to see some of that. Absolutely, we need to see the stormwater management issues. I had wondered why we weren't connecting Dawnlands with Street 11, but I can see now why. Our first deputant, Mr. Hunter, sort of raised the fact that that would not be a great idea. So I understand now the stormwater management issues, but it sounds like we have a little bit more investigation to do on that respect. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments? Yes, Councillor Foster.
Thank you. I too wanted to speak about the water table. I have some friends that live in that area, and I know the issues that are there, but that's been covered off pretty well so far. I do also want to speak about, one of our speakers talked about our traffic studies should kind of encompass more, not just so much related to the developments. I think that's a great idea, so I'd be looking for more information with that one. You know, here's another thing where somebody I think is probably going to say, what's it take to keep this guy happy? But I often have an issue with developments where there is too few entrants to the development and back out. This one, I almost think it's the other way. We've got 4 entrances into that development, and I think that the disturbance in traffic will then kind of affect the whole neighborhood. So I'm not sure what changes could be made there, but I think that's something that needs to be thought about when these submissions come back. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Would any other councillors? Councillor Cron?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I fully appreciate the comments made by members of the public today. I thank them for coming in and of their personal time and giving their thoughts. And my colleagues have made great points. I'm very scared about the traffic implications that we're going to have. I won't add on to what was stated very articulately by my colleagues with all the options out there, but the sheer volume of traffic that we will be getting, and there is limited flex to Leslie Street especially. It convinces me more than ever that York Region has to be a more active partner in what's going on here in East Gwillimbury, and I think it's going to be a matter of EG shouting louder for their attention to get things done, because we can't continue the way it is. We have to speed things up, because otherwise we're all going to be paying for it. But yeah, we have to shout louder. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Crone. I see that there is another gentleman who would like to speak, and there is still an opportunity if you have any last-minute thoughts you'd like to share. And but before our next speaker comes up to the podium, while he's filling out the form, I would like to also add my concerns that have been shared with me with residents of East Gwillimbury and myself traveling at the intersection right in front of the Civic Centre, actually, where Mount Albert Road and Leslie Street meet. And during certain times of the day, after 4 o'clock, it's basically bumper to bumper there. And so residents have suggested and requested if there's any possibility of putting in an advanced left green arrow for turning onto Mount Albert Road off of Leslie Street, and if that could be looked at potentially between our staff and Engineering and Public Works, working collaboratively with York Region, if there might be some ways to mitigate the increase in the traffic on Leslie Street even before these additional developments are built over the course of the next few years. So that intersection, it might help relieve some of the traffic if they adjusted the current signals and lights at that intersection. So that might be something that we could look into, working with York Region to help improve the situation there. So as our next speaker, you're more than welcome to come up to the podium, please, and share your thoughts with us.
Thank you, Acting Chair. My name is Ron Lay. I'm a resident of Sharon for 52 years. I reside at 55 May Avenue. The concern I have is over the water table. It's already been mentioned, but I currently have, let's go back a number of years. There was a natural waterway that runs between 55 May Avenue and 57 May Avenue, and across the street between 54 and 56. It runs across south to May Avenue, south all the way to Farr, and I'm not sure where it runs after Farr. Back in the 80s, I signed an easement with the town. They came in, put in a culvert. I also have 3 catch basins on my property, and that natural waterway runs across May Avenue to behind all of the residents on the south side of May Avenue, running then to the catch basin or the lagoon or whatever you want to call it. That waterway was supposed to, or at least the culverts that were installed were to take all the water away. When we have a heavy rain, the 3 catch basins that are on my property actually overflow. We have water coming up through the grates on the property, completely flooding the back quarter of my property at 55 as well as 57. If the water level is increased, if it rises, I don't see how natural runoff is ever going to escape properties. We have a new building being built just across the street. Immediately behind them is the waterway that runs to the lagoon. When he built his house, put in the basement, he suddenly had 1.5 feet of water in the basement. You've got the creek at this level running behind the property. He digs a hole 8 feet deep, and guess what? It filled up with water. That is only going to increase, not only for the homes immediately backing up to the proposed development, but also to properties on my side of the street where the water just cannot run away. So I think it needs to be very carefully looked at, or there's going to be unimaginable flooding in terms of septic systems, as has already been mentioned. Needless to say, just water sitting everywhere. Thank you.
We appreciate your perspective, being such a long residing member of our community in Sharon, and you can give us the history on that. So anybody else, this is your chance. Or forever hold your peace, as the saying goes. Okay, seeing no other further members of the council chambers who would like to comment, and if there are no further questions from any members of council, Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Just a quick comment. Whenever we do these statutory public meetings, if something occurs to people after the fact, they are more than welcome to send an email or a letter in, and it will be made part of the planning file and will be considered as well. So it's not a forever hold your peace, but rather
well,
but rather just making sure that people still have the opportunity, if they've thought about it, they go home, they have a good
absolutely,
sleep,
yes.
They can come back to us with any feedback.
Thank you for that comment. Quite right. You are always welcome to give us feedback. However, now is the best opportunity while we are all here together in person, and so. But seeing no other further questions or individuals who'd like to make a comment, I'm going to look for a mover and a seconder for this part of the evening. This Councillor Carruthers and Councillor Foster. We will, so moved by Councillor Carruthers, seconded by Councillor Foster. Be it resolved that the Development Services Memorandum dated December 16th, 2025, entitled Proposed Zoning Bylaw Amendment 19291 Leslie Street and 2016 Farr Avenue Public Meeting be received, and that the presentation from the applicant be received, that comments received at the statutory public planning meeting be addressed by the Development Services Planning Branch in a comprehensive report to a future council meeting date. So we are voting on receiving all of the comments and presentation tonight. And so can I have a vote now? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. So we are moving on to item number 2 on the agenda tonight, the zoning bylaw amendment application 711371, Ontario Incorporated, blocks 128, 129, and 130, Plan 65M-4586, public meeting file ZBA 2515. And we will ask for an introduction by our Director of Planning. Mr. Krubnick, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Acting Chair. This is a public meeting for Block 458 in Mount Albert Village South. We have, it's a zoning bylaw amendment. Again, as you mentioned, ZBA 0.25.15. We do have with us today Mr. Matthew Corey, who will be making a presentation today and taking questions from council. I think one of the councils raised an excellent point in that I should have re-risked it on the last introduction of the public meeting to say that, yes, there is no decisions of council being made today, no recommendations being put forward to council, and that the members of the public we're open to always taking comments and questions from members of the public as well throughout this process. So thank you very much, and I'll invite Mr. Corey to the podium.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of council, and to the members of the public. My name is Matthew Corey. I'm with the planning firm Malone Given Parsons. We are representing 711371 Ontario Inc., which is more conventionally known as Oxford Homes tonight. And we have a brief presentation for you. If we can go to the next slide, please. Just for orientation, the property is located in the southeastern part of the community of Mount Albert. It's on south of Mount Albert Road. You can see here on the graphic between Center and 9th Line. There was a draft plan. There's a bit of a history on this one. We're only asking for zoning, and the public meeting tonight is just for zoning because these lands are already draft plan approved. They were draft plan approved back in 2015, following submission of applications in 2013. And at the time, there was no servicing allocation, and the town's policy, of course, is not to grant or provide zoning until there is a line of sight on servicing in the future. Happy to say, I think we are now in that spot, which is why we're coming back to continue to look for zoning on the remnant pieces of this plan of subdivision as anticipated when it was originally draft plan approved. And just for context, the total area of this site is 3.88 hectares. And if we can go to the next slide, please. So this is just an excerpt from the conditions of the draft plan approval and then the conditions that were draft plan approved. It does reference that the council shall consider and continue its consideration of the zoning at the time when capacity for servicing is available, and continue to recognize those block 458, which is the blocks of the subdivision plan that are being proposed to be zoned, as a continuation of the historic zoning amendment application. Next slide, please. You can see here, this is the proposed future lotting. The lots have already been created in terms of the freehold lots. You'll note that I'll break this down for you. In the very top left, there are 8 townhomes that are proposed. The rest of all of the lotting is comprised of 40-foot or 12-meter single detached lots. That includes that block that you see 257 just to the north and east, the top right. It is shown as a condominium block, but that is solely for the purpose that the block is too narrow to get a full public road. So the anticipation is that there will be a private laneway, so a common element plan of condominium, but they will be freehold single detached lots accessing from that common element plan of condominium and from that lane. So the application is being proposed to rezone to permit these uses. I should say that the original draft plan approval did have 79 lots. Again, you're seeing here 79 lots. There is no differentiation between what was originally proposed and what is being shown now. They will zone the property in accordance with the zoning that's generally in place in Mount Albert and specifically on the other parts of this plan of subdivision. If we go to the next slide, please. So just for context again, the property is designated low-density residential. Their ground-oriented homes are permitted in that land use designation. Residential densities are to range between 20 and 30 units per hectare. and minor refinements to mapping are allowed, and in this case, there was a refinement to show all of these parcels as within the yellow, which is the low-density designation. Next slide, please. Again, so the specific zones we're asking for, the R2-2 with a parentheses 45 is the R2 zone, which generally permits single detached homes with a minimum frontage of 12 meters. That is what is existing and zoned on the rest of the subdivision. We're asking for the same thing with one slight deviation. That's the 45 denotes a slightly smaller rear yard. Instead of the 7.5 meters, we're proposing 6. And that is in keeping with both the constraints on the site, but also providing a bit shallower yard to fit the housing end that's being proposed. We've looked at that, and certainly up for discussion and comment tonight is that standard. I think it provides a sufficient rear yard and amenity space. It still meets the intent of the zoning bylaw, and that's why we're proposing it's more of a contemporary standard. The other exception is on the 45, sub 45 is solely to do with that one block on the northeast of the property. This is the one with the common element laneway, the private laneway that the houses will access. Your bylaw currently states that access can only be from a street, and a street is defined as a publicly owned right-of-way. So we're asking for a clarification on the definition that in the case of this specific proposal, because they're going to be freehold, single detached lots, that for the purposes of the bylaw, a street will also include the public laneway for the purposes of granting frontage onto the road. So that's another standard that's being asked for. And we go to the next slide, please. This is just a summary. I won't read it all. It's there for yourselves and the public to see. These are all the standards. These are all the standards. We're not deviating any of them from the bylaw other than the rear yard in both cases, going to 6 meters instead of the 7. I misspoke earlier. I said 7.5. The minimum is 7 in the current and the bylaw. If we go to the next slide, please. These are the special provisions. Under the R2-2 sub 45, you can see at the bottom it says there that notwithstanding any other provisions of this bylaw where units will be developed relying on access from a private road created through a common element plan of condominium, such road is deemed to be a street and will suffice to provide legal access to a public thoroughfare, which is the public street also in the subdivision, in accordance with this bylaw. So that just cleans up a bylaw conformity issue by putting that in. And then next slide, please. And that's it. So very happy to be here tonight in front of you. Happy to answer any questions and very eager to have any comments that the public or anyone in council has for us. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Very good. We have no pre-registered speakers for this application, but members of the public are welcome to provide comments at this time if they wish to do so. Okay, we see someone has raised their hand here. If you'd like to step forward, state your name and your address, and then be sure to see the clerk at the back of the council chambers when you're done your comments.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, a couple of comments is when I saw the diagram that's been put on the lot there, it doesn't show anything about sidewalks. And one of my concerns is in the development is in the past, there's a subdivision, Donald Stewart and Hamel Heights, and they have a boulevard and then the sidewalk. Well, all the homes have a minimum 2 cars in it. And because of the positioning of the boulevard and then the sidewalk, there's not enough room to get cars parked off the sidewalk. The plows and it really affects in the wintertime more than in the summertime, but the sidewalk plows that they have can't get down the sidewalks because the residents park over top of the sidewalk. And what happens is the plow comes along, it comes to where there's a car, it goes out onto the roadway, around that car parked over the sidewalk and then back on, so that there's a section there that isn't plowed. The residents, because it's basically a bedroom community, Mount Albert, and people work away from there, and then by the time they get home, and I can appreciate that, that they don't, the residents don't shovel the sidewalk enough, so by the time the plow gets around, there's a buildup of ice and snow on there, which makes it detrimental to seniors, let alone anybody else that's walking on there. I've made mention of this before, and I guess that periodically a bylaw officer will come out, and I don't think he's obviously not ticketing anybody. He might be giving warnings, but I've been there for 19 years, and the residents don't seem to get the idea that they've got to stay off the parking over the sidewalk so that the plow can get through to make it feasible. I like to walk every day, and after a snowfall, I'm walking on the roadway because the sidewalks themselves are detrimental. So I guess I'm asking your developing committee and the planner to give some consideration of where the sidewalks are going to be, so that these residents, which will, I'll bet, have a minimum of 2 vehicles, and if they have children, then you wind up having 3 or 4. If you go there, you can see some of the homes, they actually park sideways over the driveway, as well as being up as close to the garage. Apparently, nobody uses a garage to park in; it's all storage, and that's historically happening in Mount Albert. I don't know about the other towns, Sharon and stuff like that. But anyway, that is my concern about access and feasibility of being able to walk, and again, the boulevard as opposed to where the sidewalk is placed. And I understand that if you put the sidewalk right by the roadway, when the plow goes around, it's going to bury half of that in snow. So it's you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. So, okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you for raising your hand and sharing your concerns with us. Parking is an eternal question that we are challenged with developments. And so while you fill out your form, is there anyone else who is here tonight? Oh, very good. Would you like to come to the podium? We'll keep things flowing, and then when you're done, you can fill out the form. If you can just state your name and your address, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Natalie Mann. I'm at 18885 Leslie Street. I will be speaking later with respect to the daycare, but just in terms of this presentation, it just came to my mind the importance of when the gentleman was talking about a backyard, sort of simply being moved from 7.5 to 6 meters. I just worry and I caution about if this is allowed to go through, 7.5 comes to 6, and then next time someone's going to be 5.5, and then, oh, what, we're just going to go to 5. All of a sudden, the desire to put so many properties on a piece of land, everything just keeps getting shrunk. And if you set a precedent that 7.5 can be turned to 6, well then what may come next, and how much smaller and how much more condensed do properties become? Thank you.
Oh, can you fill out the form with the clerk at the back? Very good, thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak tonight to this presentation about zoning? Seeing no one, I'm going to open up the conversation to the council members here tonight. And are there any questions or concerns you'd like to share? Oh, Councillor Crone, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to our presenter. I understand that the wastewater treatment facility is undergoing an upgrade, and you won't be able to. It won't be ready until 2029. What was your ETA for when you'd like to break ground on this development?
Through you, Madam Chair. Councillor Crone, I think the ETA for when they would like to go ahead with the development, I'm joined by Stephen Meyer from Oxford Homes, but I'm going to look to him a bit on this one. I believe you'd like to proceed when servicing is available. Yeah, so it would be looking to go ahead when servicing is available in 2029, which would mean obviously that pre-work and other things would be going on a year or more in advance of that.
Okay, all right. Good to know. I'd like to echo the comment of the previous speaker about the size of backyards. I really hate shortchanging, especially the kids, to giving them small yards. But I'll leave that with you to figure out. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's it for me.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Johns?
Thanks, Councillor Leahy. I just think there's such an opportunity here. It's kind of difficult to see it on the page, but if you look at the topography, it is relatively steep down that coming down the one side. But if you do look at the way that Vivian Creek runs through and then up to the north, and then if you're thinking about what phase 2 is, and then you're kind of thinking about quality of life for everybody, like I spent probably a decade in this, when I was a kid in the springtime, we planted a pile of trees just on the north side of Mount Albert Side Road. And honestly, I quite frankly, I'm feeling a little bit proud to have been a part of that, because if you look to the north side and then you look on the south side, there is a clear difference. And I think that with what we are doing from a development perspective on residential, it is important that that our natural heritage is protected and improved. And I think that whether it be obviously working with the municipality in attempting to figure out what is best for continuous improvement along this area, but I think there's an opportunity to collaborate with community groups and really in protecting that creek and protecting that corridor and making it something like we're talking about the backyards. That is one big backyard that could be a jewel of in the connectivity of the natural vegetation within Mount Albert. And I just, the opportunity to make a commitment to our natural environment is right there in front of us, and I think it could probably turn into a differentiation point for folks that are deciding where they want to live. So I just want to identify that and shine a light on it and see if there's something that we can do.
Would anyone else like to speak? Any other members of council? Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just did want to echo the shallow backyards. I think the character of Mount Albert and some of our villages, we want them to be family friendly and attractive. And a 6-meter deep backyard is less than 20 feet. And so you can't really do much in 20 feet. So even at 7.5 meters, we're only 25 feet. It's not very, so I think it's something that we really need to maintain as best as we can. The private street with the 8 townhomes or the condo style, I'm not sure if it fits in that spot. It does seem to be shoehorned in, and I wonder if there might be another way of addressing that. I know that we've had challenges with respect to the turning radius for snow plows and waste collection and so on and so forth. So I would want to make sure that that it was going to be adequate. Part of the reason why the appeal of putting it a parcel of tied land or having a condo style structure is that you don't have to maintain the municipal standards of road widths and so on. And I certainly would contest that. I think this neighborhood is a family neighborhood. There's a beautiful park on the corner, and the trail system through the valley, when this is done, is going to be beautiful. And I want the very best for this section, for this phase. And I know the developer also wants the same because they want to sell houses. But I just want to make sure that this is as appealing as possible. Thank you.
Seeing no further hands up in the air to make any comments, I will ask for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Crone and Councillor Carruthers. So be it resolved that the Development Services Memorandum dated December 16th, 2025, entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application 711371, Ontario Inc., Blocks 128, 129, and 130, Plan 65M-4586, public meeting be received, and that the presentation from the applicant be received, and that comments received at the statutory public planning meeting be addressed by the Development Services Planning Branch in a comprehensive report to a future council meeting date. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. We will move on now to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 3, proposed zoning bylaw amendment 18899 Leslie Street public meeting, file ZBA.25.16, related file SPA 2509. And we'll have the introduction by Director of Planning, Mr. Krupnik.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair. This is our third public meeting for the evening. This is a zoning bylaw amendment application and site plan application. We are here today because the zoning bylaw amendment application requires a public meeting. This is for a daycare south of an existing one along Leslie Street. And we do have an applicant, and sorry, the applicant's agent, I believe, is virtual today. I believe they're online with us today. And so they will be providing their presentation to council, as well as taking questions from members of council, and as well staff and myself are here to assist with that process. Thank you very much.
Great. We're moving on to the presentation from the applicant agent. Joining us virtually. Can you hear us? Are we connected?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Yeah. Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Deborah Alexander. I'm with Alexander Planning, and I'm working with the owner of the property at 18899 Leslie Street in Sharon. If you could put the slides up, I can't see if they're up or not. My apologies. Okay, so this property is located immediately south of the existing Gwillim Hills Montessori Daycare Center. It's also owned by the same company. This proposed development involves the interior renovation to convert the existing heritage structure to a daycare center for 41 children. Next slide, please. There are no changes proposed to the exterior of the structure. However, the existing garage is proposed to be removed to provide access to the rear parking area. This property is located on the east side of Leslie Street. It's south of Mount Albert Road. It is surrounded on the north by Gwillim Hills Montessori and Daycare Center. The east and south have existing residential developments, and of course, Leslie is on the west. This property is serviced by private well and septic. As part of this development, the property will be connected to municipal water, and the existing septic system will be replaced. The policies of the official plan do allow institutional uses to be developed on partial services. Next slide, please. Thank you. The property is designated local corridor and village core area. The local corridors are intended to permit a wide range of uses, including residential, neighborhood, commercial, and institutional uses. The village core areas are generally the historic main streets that are intended to grow to provide greater density and a broader mix of uses to support the local surrounding community. Next slide, please. Thank you. This property is currently zoned mixed-use 1 with a holding provision. The mixed-use 1 zone does permit a wide range of residential and commercial uses, including single detached dwellings, community centers, libraries, daycare centers, business offices, restaurants, retail stores. So it's a full range of supporting uses to a residential area. The holding provision restricts uses on this zone until full municipal services are available. And until then, permitted uses are actually limited to only animal clinics, animal daycare centers, art galleries, business offices, commercial schools, banks, libraries. Childcare center is not included in that list. So that's the purpose of the bylaw tonight, is to bring that childcare center into the active uses for this property now while we wait for services. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment will rezone the property to a site-specific mixed-use holding zone to permit the establishment of the daycare on the property under the existing holding provision. Next slide, please. The site plan proposes to remove the existing garage to provide access to an 11-space parking area located towards the center of the property. The rear of the property is proposed as a playground. Now, early on, there was some discussion with town engineering staff regarding connecting the driveway and parking area for this center with the existing center to the north to provide a one-way in and one-way out continuous driveway to service both centers. However, this was turned over to our engineering team, and our civil engineer determined that the grade change between the two properties was such that that connection actually wasn't feasible. In addition, the architect was concerned because a continuous driveway would separate the building from the playground, and that would mean that classes of children would have to walk across that live driveway to access the playground, and that would create a safety issue. So it was discussed with staff, town staff, and that approach was abandoned in favor of the approach that we're looking at right now. Next slide, please. The interior of the building is going to be renovated to create 2 toddler classrooms upstairs, 2 preschool classrooms, that's the younger children, downstairs on the ground floor. Ground floor is also going to have just a staff room and a kitchen. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we did do a traffic study. That site plan proposes the 11 spaces, including 1 accessible space that satisfies zoning. Now, it's important to note that for a childcare center, unlike a public elementary school where all the parents and children arrive during a very short period of time in the morning and afternoon, a childcare center has a staggered pickup and drop-off time that actually peaks between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. in the morning. So it spans that entire 3-hour period. And again, from 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. at night. So our traffic study was undertaken. It studied the day nursery immediately north, which I believe has 62 children. So it's a little bit larger than this one. It did find that in the morning, we would anticipate during that 3-hour period about 19 trips in and out of the center. And then in the evening, about 17 trips in and out over that whole sort of 3-hour period. So next slide, please. So we also looked at noise. So we did a noise study, and that was undertaken to make sure that there would be no noise impacts to the adjacent properties. Excuse me. The noise study did find that a 1.8 meter acoustic wall along the south property boundary would prevent noise impacts to the neighbor to the south. Now, although the noise impact study didn't recommend noise mitigation for the property to the east, the acoustic fence has been extended, that's that light blue line that you see, has been extended around the east property line as well, just to make sure that there's no concerns from any of the adjacent neighbors. That acoustic fence, the inset on the right of this slide shows us what that acoustic fence is going to look like. It basically just appears very much like a standard privacy fence. It's 1.8 meters high. In addition, the owner is in discussions with some of the neighbors to explore some options, including some additional landscaping or screening along the top of the fence. But we have to recognize, of course, that the maximum permitted fence height, according to the East Gwillimbury Town Fence Bylaw, is 2 meters. So we can add another 0.2 meters or about a foot to the top of that fence to try and bring it up a little bit higher to try and preserve some privacy. Next slide, please. So as we can, this is very early in the process, and we will be making a second submission to address the comments that we received through the circulation process already, as well as any comments that we received tonight. Once all of those comments are dealt with and staff and agencies are satisfied, this proposal will return to council for a decision. So that's basically the process we're in right now. We're really in step 3 of this 5-step process. And of course, we'll be addressing any comments that we get tonight from council, anything we get from the residents, and anything that we get through our circulation as part of our next submission. And I hope this information has provided a good overview of this project, has responded to some of the questions which I think councils and members of the public probably had. And of course, I'll be pleased to answer any questions. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So we have 4 registered speakers tonight regarding this particular application, and I will now call on the following individuals to join us at the lectern to provide their comments regarding this application. And the first registered speaker is Andrew Boyd. Mr. Boyd, if you're here, please come forward.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Acting Mayor Leahy, and councillors. My name is Andrew Boyd. I'm a resident in Sharon at 18817 Leslie Street. I'm here to express my concerns about the proposed daycare facility, but also my outrage at an average neighborhood home that might be permitted to expand into and allow for 50 full-time daytime clients and employees, producing garbage, noise, excess traffic, and safety risk for our community, as well as the parents and the child clients of the proposed facility. There will be a very specific increase in traffic during morning and evening rush hours due to the fixed operating times of the child care center. 50 cars potentially arriving and leaving in a span of 2 to 3 hours, as was mentioned by our earlier presenter, each morning and afternoon. The location of the proposed facility is just below the crest of a hill to the north, with only one entrance and the same as an exit. So cars moving southbound will immediately be faced with turning cars blocking their way. Cars are already risking our community by driving on the boulevard to avoid waiting for turning cars, which violates regional traffic laws as pointed out by signage along the boulevard. It's difficult to understand how potentially 40 vehicles will be expected to stop and let out occupants on the boulevard, or perhaps worse, be allowed to turn into the property and negotiate around a residential backyard 5 days a week. When the snow arrives, typically for 4 or 5 months, and we're well into it now, the boulevard will be unusable. And in good weather, the boulevard in front of the house only allows for 2 to 3 cars at a time in front of that said house. Traffic has already become bumper to bumper, certainly in the afternoons and some mornings. This has every potential to be a safety crisis. Relative to waste, if each house receives our new super bins per property, our properties, by logic of number of residents occupying that home during the daytime, they should require 10 to 12 bins based on an average residence of 4. Our boulevards are not made for 10 bins, and the facility doesn't allow for a large truck to come in and empty waste. Nor does residential pickup allow for it. The garbage at the adjacent center, daycare center, with only a dozen children is already stinky with diapers and food waste. 4 times that many children and their diapers will be a major source of smell pollution and boulevard congestion. Yet further is the pollution of idling cars trying to enter and exit, and their exhaust. The light and noise pollution, starting at 7 a.m. to adjoining homes as cars turn, is significant, and an intrusion on the privacy and the health of our residents. I believe the liability to the town of East Gwillimbury will also be significant if this facility is allowed. Traffic risks, client risks, adjacent residence risks, garbage and pollution risks all get exacerbated if this facility with 12 times the average number of daily residents is permitted. This is meant to be in an industrial plaza or on a large parcel of land, not sandwiched into a neighborhood with one shared entry and exit point, not with inadequate residential garbage pickup, not where cars are focused on moving within and through the community on an unsafe and potentially perilous stretch of road. This proposed daycare is a large commercial enterprise, not a local childcare home. Again, I believe the risk to our community and to the town, if this is allowed, are enormous. Thank you for your time.
Very good. The next speaker is Natalie Mann. Is Natalie Mann here? Yes. Very good.
Thank you. You'll have to forgive me. I think some of what I'm going to say has kind of been addressed. It might be a little repetitive in places, but I'm going to go with what I wrote anyway, if that's okay. Good evening, Madam Acting Mayor, members of council, neighbors, and members of the community. My name is Natalie Mann, and I have lived on Leslie Street in Sharon with my family for over 27 years. I live at 18885 Leslie Street, the property directly to the south of Sam at 18899 Leslie, the owner of the property. We are direct neighbors. I sat down 4 different times to try and write what I wanted to say tonight in response to hearing that a daycare with this magnitude of change was proposed to go in on Sam's property next door to me. When I saw the drawing, the one that we saw tonight, it was emailed to me and I actually felt a little sick to my stomach. I have lived beside Sam's property, neighborly, for 4 years since he bought it. I sometimes cut his grass. I told him when his neighbors were feeding the raccoons, and sometimes he would bring me yummy cake. I do not begrudge him for wishing to build another daycare and grow a business, just like I hope he does not begrudge me for not wanting this daycare business beside my home. I could never have imagined that his vision of an additional daycare spots on his property would have involved tearing down the garage, a number of trees, and creating a large parking lot, a busy two-way driveway, idling cars, and light standards all in front of my kitchen window. Our properties are very close together with just a grassy knoll separating our driveways. My concern for the community in general is around, I have one main concern for the community in general, and then I have some concerns that mostly just affect me and to some degree the neighbors directly across the street. My concern for the community in general is around traffic and general safety. The traffic brief that was submitted concluded that the proposed development can be accommodated by the existing transportation network. My concern is that some of the less obvious factors may not have been considered in this determination. The proposal is for entering and exiting cars to be side by side on the driveway to the south of the property. The sightline equation may not have considered that there could be cars parked on the boulevard at various times all throughout the day. It is certain that some parents will park on the boulevard to walk their children into the daycare because they will want to bypass having to enter into the parking lot. With a car coming north to enter the daycare while another is trying to travel south, side by side, it could be very dangerous. I read in the traffic study that 7 seconds was allotted for a car to exit the driveway. Yesterday evening at 5:28, my daughter timed me at 51 seconds to get a break in the traffic to safely exit our driveway. The drivers along Leslie at rush hour are not very polite, and speeds in car traffic have only been increasing steadily over time. Having just one exit and entry point means a certain backup of cars, and then drivers just get angry when delayed, even for a moment, and will speed off. Additionally, each of the cars is expected to do a 3-point turn to turn around and exit the parking lot, as you can see if you were to look at the vehicle maneuvering diagrams. This will only add time and frustration to the daily process and flow of cars. The traffic study was completed on April 3rd, 2025, and I wonder if future values were extrapolated accurately with all of the continued development traffic to be expected in the area, not the least of which is another proposal for 830 more dwellings up Leslie Street and onto Farr, but that's another issue. Furthermore, the sneaky little habits that the traffic brief did not consider is how cars like to drive up onto the boulevard to pass cars that are waiting to turn left into the driveway. I have seen my share of close calls with cars and pedestrians because of this impatience. It was not long ago this winter, Chris alluded to this, that a car either speeding down Leslie or not paying attention collided into oncoming traffic and traveled right into the porch at 18852, just 3 doors down, and it's very fortunate that that no one was home and that no one was on the sidewalk and that no one was killed. Maybe reducing the speed limit, like in a school zone, and enforcing these speeds with police presence would make not just the daycare children safer, but the entire community. My understanding from talking to Sam was that the region was in favor of plans to enter the daycare from the south side of the property and to exit on the north side, and that it was the town that would not approve the plan. Perhaps today's presenter clarified that a little bit, but I guess I would ask that could, even at this junction, that possibly be reconsidered or looked at more deeply to allow the 2 daycares, if approved, to sort of act together as one. The next concerns are primarily ones pertaining to me living directly beside the proposed business. My first concern is with respect to the trees. I watched on March 31st and again on November 13 as many beautiful trees were cut down from the property. My understanding from reading through the tree inventory is that altogether 18 trees have already been removed for this project. On page 3, it says that the compensation required for all these tree removals is 24 trees that must be planted on the site. And I found it interesting that it also said, or paid out in cash in lieu of replanting. I was shocked to read that there was an option to not replace the trees and just pay out some cash instead. The trees that provided shade and health to the environment are gone, and there seemed to be no real accountability to actually replace the trees. From the proposed plant material list, the daycare is providing 3 deciduous trees on the property. Later, I will have a suggestion of where the remaining 21 could be placed. Additionally, it was only by reading deep into this tree inventory and preservation plan that I noticed one of my very healthy Colorado spruces is expected to be injured during the retaining wall excavation. My next concern is with water runoff. Given that so much grassland will be replaced with asphalt and concrete, what will the drainage consequences be? Water movement for the site is and has always been from north to south. Water flows naturally from all the homes above, even the Mount Albert homes. It flows down and into my backyard. I spent a fortune to build up the entire backyard to facilitate an in-ground pool and then carefully regraded for water flow. I also spent $30,000 on a driveway reno, drainage grate, and regrading to the north to manage the water that used to come from Sam's property onto my driveway and into my basement. Water runoff is a very big concern for me. Noise and sightlines that will affect the enjoyment of my backyard is my next concern. I'm really not terribly opposed to the sound of children playing. It is the proximity of the children, pollution, and effects of the parking lot that concerns me more. I am concerned about the invasion of privacy if parents, staff, and children can see into my backyard and pool area. The noise feasibility study suggested an acoustic barrier, a high acoustic fence along a portion of the southern property line to assist in reducing sound levels. I worry how well this will work, and I dread the change to the beauty of the yard. 3 industrial light standards are to be placed on the daycare property, and I'm concerned that this type of lighting could significantly and negatively affect neighboring properties through light pollution. Exposure to bright, unshielding light during the night can disrupt sleep patterns and impact overall well-being. I was really happy to read that the 3 light standards are supposed to be dark sky compliant, and I hope this means that all the light pollution will be minimized, especially since there's no longer any trees to shield the industrial light. In addition, I'm concerned over the choice of signage that may be placed beside or over the new daycare. I could not find any mention in the documentation of what the nature of the signage might be. I hope it would be within the new bylaw regulations. And perhaps consideration can be made as to where such a sign may go to minimize impact. The vision of fluorescent lighting similar to the dentist office on the east side of Leslie is troublesome to all neighbors, I'm sure. It does not fit in with the heritage nature of the Sharon corridor. And the last issue that comes to mind includes a pool just feet from where small children will be playing. Supervision and fencing must be paramount to prevent a tragic outcome. This is an issue that never has been a concern for me before, and now it will be of constant worry. So with all these concerns in mind, I have some ideas that I would ask Sam and council to potentially review. I realize if the changes Sam is making are permissible to council, there is nothing I can do, but for him to be a good neighbor for possibly the next 40 years, perhaps the following could be considered. Could the plans be rethought to have the driveway be constructed to be enter only at the south of the property and exit along the Gwillimbury Hills at the north side? This would help the traffic flow and safety, pollution, and visual and audio noise at the point of entry, and then no 3-point turns would need to be maneuvered for traffic to flow. Could attempts be made to keep the grassy land, or at least a few feet of distance between our 2 driveways for just a little bit of separation, and have perhaps emerald cedars using those 21 remaining trees to compensate, and perhaps have those line the division of the property instead of an obtrusive fence between the driveways. That would open up the view above the trees and allow a far more pleasant view despite cars traveling behind. Could the privacy and noise reduction fence run from just the front of my garage and perhaps be allowed slightly higher than the 1.8 meters to prevent parents, staff, and children from looking directly into our pool as we try to enjoy a summer day? Ideally, maybe the fence could be built on top of the retaining wall, slated to be built for both aesthetic and functional reasons. Can continued discussions please be placed on the development of traffic solutions that we so desperately need to pull traffic away from a quickly increasingly noisy and very busy Sharon core? Could signage of the property avoid the use of lights entirely, considering no lights have been used for the present Gwillimbury Hills signage? And could light standards maybe dim or be turned down after 11 o'clock? And perhaps most importantly, if both daycares were to be permitted to exist side by side through this bylaw amendment, could a speed reduction and police enforcement be explored and ideally implemented to keep the children of the daycare and the entire community safer? Thank you very much for your time and for listening to my thoughts. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
We appreciate your feedback, and we will move on to the speaker number 3, Alexandra Wright. Is Alexandra Wright here tonight? Thank you. Please step up to the podium.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. I never thought that I would become the person who attended council meetings to speak on behalf of my own property and the property of people who are neighbors but have become family to me over the 30 years that I have lived here. But this is where we are at. It feels like, and it was a year ago that we were talking about the Heritage Conservation District and the importance of that, and understanding what the historical impact of Sharon had on sort of the overall infrastructure of East Gwillimbury. And I will allude to the impassioned speeches made here tonight about the importance of protecting parts of Mount Albert. And I hope that the councillors who are here tonight are understanding that the people who have chosen to make Leslie Street home have that same level of passion and love for the properties that perhaps family members invested in when they moved here many years ago and who are no longer here. So I had a whole bunch of stuff written down, but I think it is important that from my perspective, I live at 18882 Leslie Street. I am directly across the road from this proposed daycare, and I have many grave concerns, one of them being that I am probably the resident harbor seal of Natalie Mann's pool. So when she is away, I am the one who uses it. It is true. And so I do have grave concerns about what this proposed changes to the property are going to look like. I also, the nature of my house indicates that my personal living space affronts Leslie Street. And I deal with some negligent lighting, which I'm actually rather happy with, but I do know that the properties to the north of me are impacted by the lighting that is at Gwillimbury Hills, right? There is a spotlight that remains on all night and shines into the living spaces of the people that live there. My concern is that with those lighting standards, how is that going to impact my overall health? I am one person, but the reality of it is my bedroom abuts Leslie Street. It is noisy, it is loud, it is well lit, and the addition of these light standards have grave concern for me. I think the other piece of it that we need to address is just the sheer amount of traffic, and we've talked about this ad nauseum here this evening and at many other meetings. My concern is that it is a regional road, and we have talked about what does it look like if we engage with the region? What does that look like in terms of our living standards along Leslie, right? We talk about Murrell and the fact that it is kind of a north-south route. Leslie Street is as well, and it is one that is actively used by first responders. At various times during the day, and I think it's interesting how the developer, who probably has spent very little time on Leslie Street, really has considered the impact of that daycare. There is actually another business to the direct south of me, which is Simplicity Mortgages, and there is another, and then there will be the third driveway that is directly across the road. So Simplicity Mortgages, at many times during the month, will have meetings, and there can be upwards of 30, 40 cars parked along Leslie Street from approximately 3 p.m. till well into the evening. I don't think that those things are being taken into account when we are looking at the safety of residents, children, workers, staff, first responders who are trying to get to various calls within the Leslie Street corridor and areas behind us. I think there are some serious concerns that I have that I hope council is hearing when we talk about the addition of 41 plus additional bodies. The families that are dropping their children off, and I can speak from a long history of being in education, when you are a parent who is trying to pick up a child or drop off a child at the beginning or the end of your evening, you are not necessarily concerned about what is coming along, either going north or south along Leslie Street. I have seen in my time enough rear-end collisions to have grave concerns about the safety of the families, their children, and residents of Leslie Street to understand that the impact is going to be great. Sam has not been a good neighbor. And I will speak from the complete opposite side of that to say that he has been negligent in his property maintenance, he has been negligent with his garbage, he has been negligent in the communications that he has had with residents. And this will only continue if the increased daycare property is allowed to happen. I came here tonight to ask for revisions, but based on what I'm hearing tonight, I would ask that this just not be allowed. I don't know if that is possible, but we're talking about moving from one type of zoning to something that is going to just send a message to developers that we have heard here tonight that Sharon is open for business. I understand that we need homes. Believe me, I work at a local high school. I know that families need places to live. But I don't think that those houses should come at the cost of Leslie Street, the residents along Leslie Street, those that have chosen to make their home here for 30+ years. I think there needs to be some serious considerations that go into this, that go into the messaging that is being sent or being given to businesses and developers alike. Sure, we're open for business, but businesses need to have considerations. So please, I thank you. I know my time is up, I'm done, but I'm asking passionately for the considerations to be taken into account. Thank you.
We appreciate your comments tonight, and I'd just like to remind everybody that there is a 5-minute time limit, but I've been generous with the timekeeping tonight because we want to hear from everyone, but I'd just like to remind our speakers that there is technically a 5-minute time limit. So our next speaker is Mr. Chris Hobbs. If you'd like to come up to the lectern, please.
Yes, thank you. I'll try and keep my time here brief. I've already talked about the increased traffic, the problems. Acting Mayor Leahy, councillors. Again, I'm providing, my wife had to leave early, and it's earlier people talked about some of the constraints that we all have, and most of these comments are hers. Leslie Street is an important street for a lot of reasons. York Region, I believe, has had Leslie Street in its plans for many years, and they don't talk about it. We're not well represented in the region simply because of how the province has decided that the chairman is an appointed position. So I feel, quite honestly, that the region does not have any representation to me, that it's an illegal organization because it's not democratic. But anyway, that aside, I believe that there have been long-term plans to do things to Leslie Street which we don't fully appreciate. The issue of boulevards is very important to Sharon, and we've talked about it. You hear about 30 or 40 cars parked on boulevards for various events from landowners and residents of Sharon, and they all park on the boulevard. We've seen as late as 2016 plans by the town, by East Gwillimbury, to remove the boulevards and replace parking and have a center lane, all designed in some way, shape, or form to create some commercial enterprise called the Village Core. I don't get it, never have understood it. The Heritage Conservation District makes perfect sense, but it's problematic because a lot of the properties within the Village Core, as it used to be called, are now owned by potential developers. My wife has talked about her comments. Can signage regarding frequent turns be placed along Leslie Street to make drivers aware that many businesses enter and exit directly onto Leslie Street within Sharon proper? Could there be no passing on the shoulder of the road signs put forward instead of no driving? Very confusing and very, oh, I didn't know what that meant. I'm just passing. I'm not driving. You know, and we're all lawyers now in this world, so parsing out sentences is very important. Regarding the daycare business proposal, the drop-offs and pickups will create congestion at least twice daily, and she feels the 12 additional parking spaces will not be sufficient, and clients will choose to park on Leslie Street boulevards to ferry their children in and out of daycare. And it's not a safe solution. Other people have mentioned it. And it creates a lot of concerns. My earlier request that the 40-kilometer speed zone from Mount Albert down to St. James Anglican Church would be better than nothing at all, but it still requires the region's authority and everything else. My wife walks every day, twice a day, on Leslie Street at first thing in the morning between 6 and 6:30. I came up today walking. The garbage is out because tomorrow is pickup. In the operating daycare, there are 10 or 12 small green bins. At least 3 of them are open, and there'll probably be more open as the night goes on. They need another 3 or 4 bins minimum to be able to close the lids. And I'm not going to tell you what's sticking out of the bins. It is a daycare with young children. And no one bothers to clean. It takes the better part of a week to clean up debris after the garbage trucks pick those units up. So in terms of good neighbors, yes, I have to agree. They're not really good neighbors. So that's about it. The safety from the highway, safeties from the speeding cars, keep the boulevards, but make the signage very clear that you do not go on to pass vehicles on the other side of when you're driving through, because it is a very dangerous road, and most people who live on Leslie Street take very, very good care to stay. But we have a young family with young children who just started living on Leslie Street across the road from us in the fall. And they've got young children, 5, 6, and 7, and very worried. The houses on Leslie are very close to the road, and they're in one of the houses that was struck by the car 4 weeks ago, and so it is very concerning. So we're looking for the town, for EG, to provide some management of York Region to get them to properly deal with the traffic issues and traffic volume.
Thank you for your comments and feedback. We have been listening to everyone's comments, and we have one last speaker here who is registered this evening to speak, Denise Tennant.
Again, I didn't plan, but good evening to the council. I just wanted to add one thing, just because I was here. I actually live on 83 Jennifer Crescent, which is directly across from the walkway. So you go from Leslie Street to Jennifer Crescent, down the walkway. My property's right there, right across the street. And both employees of the daycare, the existing daycare, as well as parents, because they don't want to use Leslie Street, are parking on our street, some of the employees for the entire day. So there's already a huge traffic issue, and it's only going to get worse if you add these additional daycare spaces. So we've called bylaws, it just continues. Thank you.
We have come to the end of the list. Is there anyone else here this evening who would like to speak while you have the opportunity? Yes? Okay, we have one more person. If you'd like to come to the lectern, state your name and your address, and then confirm with a form with the clerks afterwards. Thank you.
Hi, Madam Mayor. My name is Tara Downing. I live on 18898 Leslie Street, directly across from the existing Gwillimbury Hills daycare. So my concerns are what all of my neighbors have said today. I just want to reiterate that these are concerns. The garbage, I recognized, I looked at the circular, I don't know the name, but they have said that potentially daycares aren't going to have pickup, so I'm not sure if that's true or not. So that might help, but the raccoons do get into the garbage, and it does cause a lot. We have gloves on our lawn that have been used and remnants of garbage, so it's not good. My concern is that the existing daycare has a very small parking lot, and oftentimes cars have to stop on Leslie Street in order to wait for the cars that are in the daycare to get in and out. When you have two daycares competing for Leslie Street and cars blocking, stopping, in and out. Now, I know for myself, I don't know about my neighbors, but for myself, sometimes I'm on the boulevard for 10 minutes trying to get out of my driveway at 8:45. So when you add another whole parking lot, which is going to be full of employees as well, because they're already parking in the home's driveway. There's already about 4 cars there. So we already know that 4 or 5 cars are already going to take up space in the new daycare. So I'm just concerned about the road safety, but then stoppages to Leslie Street, which is only going to make our problems worse. So that's just all I have to say. But thank you.
Noted. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you can speak to our clerk in the back, that would be great. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak before we open it up to questions from council? Seeing no one else who would like to speak tonight, but you're always welcome to submit comments and have conversations with the planning department after the fact if anybody else wants to contribute to the conversation. So are there any questions from council? Councillor Johns?
I feel like I'm turning into a pumpkin tonight right now for some reason. But in listening to all the comments, like over the years, hearing all the comments from the statutory meetings, I have to say, like, I sincerely appreciate the thought that went into the comments tonight. Every single point that was made was there's a particular nuance to the challenge as it pertains to hitting the neighborhood. And so I won't go and reiterate those because I agree, like I'm picturing it myself. What I want to get clarification, and if staff could provide this for me, is it true that the holding provision, so let's say that there was wastewater infrastructure. Would we even be sitting here tonight? So could staff answer that question for me as opposed to the proponent's consultant? Because I'd rather hear it from our staff so I can better understand. So I can better understand. I really would like, through you, Madam Acting Mayor, I'd like to better understand really the reality is that the opportunity for control and delivering outcomes as it sits in this moment versus if the holding provision, I'll allow you to answer the question, sorry.
No problem. Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair. So we are here today because the lack of sanitary only permits certain amount of uses in in the property presently. When services are available to those property holders, my understanding, looking at my planner, I believe, is that that would be a permitted use in our zoning bylaw along that main street.
Any,
Could
you'd
I
like
do
a follow-up
follow-up?
question?
Yeah.
Yes.
So as it stands presently, because we don't have that wastewater, does the municipality have additional, sorry if I could speak a little bit more freely and casually as opposed to like, if we wouldn't be sitting here tonight, the applicant would go through a process and it would just be done. Because we are here, do we have added control opportunities based on the very intelligent comments that were made here tonight? Like, could this be an opportunity for us, is what I'm trying to get at, that we wouldn't necessarily have in the future?
And through you, Madam Chair, thank you very much, Councillor, for your question. Well, yes, we are here for a zoning bylaw amendment. So if Council chooses down the road to seek different permissions for the zoning bylaw amendment or make certain suggestions, or perhaps recommendations brought forward and Council agrees or disagrees with the recommendation of staff, just like any other zoning bylaw amendment, that is in your control. If there was, again, sanitary allocation here on the site through municipal services, it would still go through a site plan application process and it would still go through building permits.
Thank you. Just one final comment. I just want to reiterate something that my ward mate, Councillor Roy D. Clemente, made. I think it's absolutely brilliant, the comment regarding the community safety zone. And I think that the works that's being done within the Heritage District and understanding that opportunity of the community safety zone is critically important for the future and the traffic. And I again acknowledge and reiterate the comments that were made here tonight, and I'd like to do a follow-up with staff on the side to get a better understanding of the opportunities to address some of the concerns here tonight. So thank you.
Are there any other questions from members of council? Yes, Councillor Roy D. Clemente.
Thank you. I'm wondering if we can put the applicant's presentation, slide 2, on the screen, please. And it's just an image of the outside of the house. I'm just wondering, through you, Madam Chair, to the applicant. There is a very large tree on this in this image, and it's even more beautiful. That's my point. That is my question. Thank you. I'm just wondering when it was removed and whether it was done within the provisions of our tree preservation bylaw.
Through you, Madam Acting Mayor, to Councillor Tara Roy de Clemente, thank you. I would like to invite my colleague, Director of Parks Development and Operation, Frank Mazzata, to speak specifically to this question, if you don't mind.
So the applicant isn't able to answer? I'm happy to have Mr. Mazzata answer, but I just figure that maybe, do you have the information, Mr. Mazzata? Okay, so is the applicant still with us even?
I will ask,
yes, you are.
as chair, do we still have the applicant here who can answer the question through me to Councillor
Thank
Roy
you.
de Clemente? Are you there?
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. Yes, I am
Yes.
still present.
Did
I've
you
been
hear the
taking
question?
Diligent notes.
Yes.
Yes, I did hear it. I can't speak to it, unfortunately, because this image came from Street View. And I actually didn't go on this property until the summer just passed. And when I attended the property, the tree was already gone. So I have no idea the history. I'm really sorry. I did not see it.
Thank you very much. I think we will leave it with staff, perhaps. Mr. Hobbs, no, just a second. In terms of the process of answering the question, I'd like to go through the appropriate process. And so, Mr. Frank Mazzata, would you like your staff who is knowledgeable about trees and the tree bylaw, would you please, do you have anything that you'd like to add to this conversation? Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, I do not have an answer of when it was removed. We did investigate the tree based on a complaint, and we are trying to establish when it was removed. Thank you.
It sounds like we can connect residents with you, Mr. Mazzata, so that's.
Yes,
great.
I think that's the best course of action at this point in the conversation, that feel free to speak with Mr. Mazzata, who is conducting an investigation currently into that tree.
Thank you. I have another,
Yes,
if I may, Madam
okay,
Chair.
yes.
So I'm just curious through you to staff, normally when there's a commercial or an institutional use, there's a certain number of parking spaces that are needed. So I'm looking at the site plan, the proposed site plan, and there are 9 staff, and there may be enough parking. I think I see 11 parking spots, including the accessibility one. There is, Councillor Foster, there is snow storage, a little bit. But I'm just wondering, because normally as I understand it, for a use like this, you need parking for staff, and then you need parking for parents to be able to drop off. So are they seeking an exemption under the parking restrictions? Because it sounds to me like we've already got a challenge in the community with their employees, with the adjacent use. They don't have enough spots for staff and parents. I'm wondering if we might be reintroducing that here. I don't know if they're seeking an exemption or not.
So we will ask our Mr. Krupnik if he has an answer to that question at this time.
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't see that in my report presently, so I would actually direct that question to the applicant. They would be able to effectively tell us whether or not they are seeking that exemption to the zoning bylaw.
Very good. So our applicant is joining us virtually, and do you have an answer to Councillor Roy DeClementi's question at this time?
Thank you, through Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair, no, we are not seeking any additional relief whatsoever. All the requirements of the zoning bylaw are being satisfied by this proposal. The only relief that we need for the zoning bylaw amendment is to allow this use to proceed in the absence of full municipal services. It would be a permitted use otherwise.
Thank you. I think we do need to have a better look at the parking here. It doesn't seem to me that there's going to be, if you've got 9 staff and 10 spots that are usable, I don't see where parents are going to be able to drop off if staff are in the building, and you don't want to be dropping off kids at a daycare where there are no staff. So we'll have to look at that.
Yes, we'll look at that further, and this is the whole purpose, so that we can ask all of these questions, both from the residents as well as the councillors. So are there any other questions from any other members of council? Anyone joining us virtually? I'm giving you the opportunity. No, we're all good? Okay. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Councillor Roy DeClementi, and I will second it as chair. So be it resolved that the Development Services Memorandum dated December 16th, 2025, entitled Proposed Zoning Bylaw Amendment, 18899 Leslie Street Public Meeting, file ZBA 25.16, related file SPA 0.25.09 be received, and that the presentation from the applicant be received, and that the comments received at this statutory public planning meeting be addressed by the Development Services Planning Branch in a comprehensive report to a future council meeting date. All those in favor? And that is carried. The next item on the agenda is an item of correspondence from the Honourable R. Flack, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, dated November 25th, 2025, regarding the Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act 2025, and Ontario Regulation 257/25, which was requested by Councillor Carruthers to be added to our agenda tonight. And so can I get a mover, please? Councillor Carruthers, since you requested this be put on the agenda, and Councillor Crone will second it. And so let's have some conversation around this item of correspondence. Pardon? Oh, yes, Councillor Carruthers, yes. What would you like to say about this item of correspondence that you've requested to add to the agenda?
I've asked for this to be added so that staff can explain the implications for East Gwillimbury. We often get these types of things, and it's not always abundantly clear what the purpose of, or what the changes are for East Gwillimbury, how it actually plays out here. So I was hoping that staff could walk us through exactly what this means for East Gwillimbury.
Mr. Krupnik.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and through you. I also do have online with me today an Aaron Butler, who from NPG Planning, who is online. He is our consultant for our zoning bylaw conformity update. So he is also online to answer answer questions of council, or to also add some color to this discussion as well. I guess from my part, I will add that this Bill 17 was actually brought before council through a memo on June 3rd of this year, prior to it coming into effect. The memo that was sent out by Honourable Minister Flack essentially was really pertains to, my understanding, pertaining to zoning setbacks. And there was a regulation released. It was a 257/25, which really stated that there was a prescribed percentage, which is 90%, and that what that speaks to is the fact that sorry, give me just one moment. And what that speaks to is that there is every zoning bylaw has setback requirements, whether they are front, rear, or side yard setback requirements. And the introduction of that 90% means that if you are within, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. So meaning that if you were normally going to come in and do a zoning bylaw amendment, which included a marginally smaller, within 10% margin of error for that setback, you would need to get a zoning amendment for that, or you would need to come in and do a minor variance. So we have a lot of members of the public who come in and get minor variances for little changes to their rear yard, front yard, or side yard setback. And in this case, to promote to reduce actually perhaps the cost to constituents or to residents, and the necessity for them to come through and obtain a minor variance, and to enable them to go out and obtain building permits sooner and quicker for the development of housing, the minister has introduced that 90% threshold, so that if you are on a 10 meter setback, for instance, proposing 9 meters, you are not in contravention or slighting the zoning bylaw. You are in fact okay, and you can proceed forward.
Thank you very much for sharing that explanation, Mr. Krupnik. I also note, after reading the letter, that it is to help create additional residential units, such as basement suites, by eliminating additional barriers related to setbacks. So I highlighted that point from the letter. So I would like to ask a question myself, if there are no other questions or comments to be made on this. My question is with regard to, you answered that question very efficiently for us here tonight, so I am questioning the need to have a paid consultant join us this evening if you were very capably equipped to answer that question, which you have just demonstrated. So what was the reason for bringing in a consultant who we've paid for their time to await this item on the agenda?
Of course, and through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not always familiar with the questions that might come out of council. And as Aaron Butler and NPG Planning is our zoning consultant, there's always opportunity for them to be able to add, either expand on the answer provided to council, or answer questions that I may not be able to answer for council. Apologies. Thank you.
So there's yes, Councillor Roy DeClemente.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm the zoning bylaw project and the subject matter experts that you've brought in, it's project-based. So they are working on the project, which is our zoning bylaw conformity update, and this forms part of their work, correct?
Through you, Madam Mayor, this is certainly pertinent to them because it impacts their zoning bylaw conformity update work. we are bringing a presentation to, we will be presenting to council on that in Q1 of 2026, but certainly as the project consultant on that initiative, it is very relevant that he has this information.
Thank you. And if I just may, I just would like to confirm, we've been seeing a lot of media reports about the province having created the ability to create accessory dwelling units as of right, provided that parking and zoning and all of those sorts of things can be met. So what you're here to confirm for us is that as part of that zoning bylaw conformity update, those accessory dwelling units that have been mentioned or been permitted by the province is going to be part of that bylaw, so that we are bringing the bylaw into conformity with provincial legislation.
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, we
Absolutely.
are working to bring that into conformity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will say that be it resolved that the correspondence from the Honourable R. Flack, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, dated November 25th, 2025, regarding the Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act 2025 and Ontario Regulation 257/25 be received. All those in favour? And that is carried. So the next item of correspondence is from a Gurukar on behalf of World Animal Protection Canada, dated November 26, 2025, regarding Ontario roadside zoos. It was requested by Mayor Hackson, who's absent with notice tonight. So I will ask for a mover in lieu of Mayor Hackson. Is there anyone who will move this? Councillor Crone, and seconder? Councillor Carruthers. So is there any conversation around this item of correspondence? Seeing none, we will state that be it resolved that the correspondence from a Gurukar on behalf of World Animal Protection Canada, dated November 26, 2025, regarding Ontario roadside zoos be received. All those in favour? And that is carried. We are moving on to item number J, which is resolutions. We have none at this time. Reports. We have a report from Development Services Memo, Part Lot Control Exemption Bylaw, Queensville Ridge, ARH Homes Limited, file PLC.25.04, in relation to item L1. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Foster? Councillor Johns, is there any discussion or information that we need to be presented with before we vote on this? Seeing none, no questions from members of council, then we will proceed with a vote. All those in favour? And that is carried. And we move on to bylaws. Item L. Number 1, bylaw 2025-065, being a bylaw to exempt certain lands from the part lot control provisions of the Planning Act pertaining to a portion of those lands within the Queensville Properties Development Corporation, Plan of Subdivision File 19T-17001, Block 284 on Plan 65M-4838, Queensville Ridge ARH Homes Limited, in relation to item K. 1, and I will proceed with all of the second and third bylaws as well before we get a mover and seconder. Bylaw 2025-066, being a bylaw to authorize the town to enter into a grant of easement in favor of the Sharon Temple Museum Society. And item number 3, bylaw 2025-067, being a bylaw to levy interim taxes in 2026. Can I have a mover? I will move that. And a seconder? Councillor Johns, be it resolved that bylaws 2025-065, 2025-066, and 2025-067 be taken as read, enacted, and signed by the mayor and municipal clerk. And all those in favour? And that is carried. Under item M, there's an other business. We have no listed items on the agenda. However, I believe it does, no items under that agenda, under other business. Okay. Confirming bylaw, we need a mover and a seconder for the confirming bylaw. Anyone online would like to Councillor Crone, and seconded by Councillor Roy DeClemente. Be it resolved that bylaw 2025-068, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on December 16th, 2025, be taken as read, enacted, and signed by the mayor and municipal clerk. All those in favor? And that is carried. And item number O is our adjournment. Can I have a mover? Councillor Johns, a seconder. Councillor Foster. And be it resolved that the meeting of council adjourn at 8:59 p.m. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.